involved in preparation and processing of the finance bill. On my own behalf and that of the House, I wish to welcome them to the National Assembly and wish them fruitful engagements during their stay in the country. Welcome to our country. Thank you. Honorable members, I have something that is going to really interest the members of parliament here and regards one of our own. The election of the Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi Wetangula, MP, as the chairperson of the Commonwealth Parliamentarians with Disabilities Network Africa region. Honorable members, the National Assembly continues to engage in parliamentary diplomacy and its usual interparliamentary affairs at regional and international levels. In this regard, a parliamentary delegation recently attended the second Commonwealth Parliamentarians with Disabilities Africa Region Conference, which took place in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, from Tuesday the 15th to Thursday the 17th of November 2022. The theme of the conference was Parliamentarians and People with Disabilities as Champions of Inclusion and Accessibility to Public and Private Sectors. Honorable members, the Commonwealth Parliamentarians with Disabilities Network, one of the networks within the wider Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, facilitates activities and programs to champion and increase the representation of persons with disabilities in Commonwealth parliaments. It also works towards the mainstreaming of disability considerations in all Commonwealth Parliamentary Association's activities and programs. Honorable members, the network supports elected representatives with disabilities in 180 parliaments and legislatures across the Commonwealth and ensures that issues of persons with disabilities are brought to the fore in parliamentary debates and in legislative matters. Honorable members, the delegation to the second Commonwealth Parliamentarians with Disabilities Africa Region Conference in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, constituted the following members from our own: the Honorable Makali Mulu, leader of the delegation, MP, leader of the delegation, and CPA, Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Senior Regional Representative. 2, the Honorable Janet Sitenei, MP. 3, the Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi, MP. 4, the Honorable Joseph Lomwa, MP. 5, the Honorable Andrew Okome, MP. 6, the Honorable Rose Mumo, MP. 7, the Honorable Jackson Kosgei, MP. 8, the Honorable Senator Crystal Asige, MP. Order. Honorable Mbadi, you are a senior member. The Honorable Senator Crystal Asige, MP. The Honorable Senator George Mbugwa, MP. The Honorable Martin Wanyonyi, MP. The Honorable Florence Sergon, MP. And finally, the Honorable Charles Gimose, MP. Key among the agenda items during the conference was the election of the chairperson of the network for the African region. I'm glad to notify that the Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi Wetangula was elected as chairperson of the Commonwealth Parliamentarians with Disabilities African Network. Honorable members, Honorable Wanyonyi will lead the network's engagement with CPA Executive Committee, the CPA Headquarters Secretariat, and liaise with Commonwealth Parliaments on behalf of the network. On behalf of all the members, and indeed on my own behalf, I wish to take this opportunity to congratulate the Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi Wetangula following his election and wish him the best as he takes up this new role. On my part, as the co-president of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Kenya branch, I reassure him of my commitment to supporting him and the activities of this new office. Congratulations once again, Honorable Wanyonyi, and we wish you well as you fly the Kenyan flag high, not only within the region, but also across the Commonwealth. I'm reading this on behalf of the Speaker. You realize I'm not, when I say I, it means the Speaker. Thank you. Honorable members, and the final communication I'll make is in the public gallery, seated this afternoon, students from New River Star Secondary School in Embakasi in Nairobi. I wish to tell the students to welcome to this august house, and secondly, students from Chewoyet High School, Kapenguria, West Pokot. Kapenguria has a special place in the hearts of Kenyans because that is where the first Prime Minister of this republic was incarcerated for many years, along with the freedom fighters who were put in there. And a good number of them, including the late Acheng Oneko and all the rest of them who have since passed on. I want to welcome you to the House and thank you very much. Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Yes, the Honorable Makali Muli, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, what are your indulgence? You know, the statement you have just read on CPA Africa was relating to a network of people with disability MPs. And honorable members might think that I have an invisible disability. So, Honorable Speaker, I think it's good to put the records straight. That, Honorable Speaker, I happen to be a senior representative of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Africa region. So this conference was being hosted in my region. And that's why, Honorable Speaker, I was in attendance. I'm the only one who was in attendance who doesn't belong to that network of MPs with disability. But I want to also, Honorable Speaker, as the senior region rep, to thank Parliament of Kenya for facilitating our colleagues who have a disability, Honorable Speaker, to participate in this important conference. This was the second conference. The first one was hosted in this country, which is Kenya. And in addition to that, Honorable Speaker, our Parliament was really very good to the members, that 12 members from both the National Assembly and the Senate were able to attend that conference. And it's on the basis of the number which attended, Honorable Speaker, that when the elections were called, then Honorable Tim Wanyonyi was able to be elected because we had a big number in terms of delegates. So we must thank the Parliament of Kenya for facilitating these members. As I conclude, Honorable Speaker, allow me just to congratulate Honorable Tim Wanyonyi for being the chair now and wish him well as he takes over this important network on disability. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Under the circumstances, Honorable Tim Wanyonyi, would you want to say a word?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I first want to thank the Parliament of Kenya for facilitating us, Mr. Speaker, to attend this conference. It's the second conference that has been held since its inception. The first was held here, Mr. Speaker, last year, and where Honorable Danita Kati was the chair, was the founding chair. And she was very instrumental in pushing for inclusion of disability in the CPA. Mr. Speaker, the delegation of Kenya was very active in this conference, and we want to thank the host, Tanzania, and also Dr. Makali Mulu for being our senior who led this delegation, Mr. Speaker. And we want to promise, Mr. Speaker, that we are going to articulate issues affecting people with disability across the Commonwealth Parliamentary establishment, Mr. Speaker, so that the voice of the people with disability is heard loud and clear, and the representation and appointive positions, Mr. Speaker, they are also equated to the people with disability. Many times, Mr. Speaker, even the membership, the CBA, we found that some countries have not even have a single member of parliament. But Kenya, I think, Mr. Speaker, we're leading from the front, and I'm glad, Mr. Speaker, I was elected to be the chair of this region, and I'll take this role very seriously, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, and we are here to represent all members with disability across the board. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let's go on. Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Okay, Honorable Soro, proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I'm also very happy, and it's good that Dr. Makali has clarified. As I was seated here, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Jematia had raised queries about his position in that particular group, and I do not want to speak out the speculation Honorable Jematia had. But Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, November 23rd, 2022. Number one, the first annual report on the state of public-private partnerships in Kenya for the year 2021-2022 by the Public-Private Partnership Directorate, National Treasury. Number two, annual report on financial statements of Laikipia University for the year 2020-2021. Three, Kenya's County Budget Transparency Survey 2021 by the International Budget Partnership. National Government Budget Implementation Review report for the year 2021-2022 from the Office of the Control of Budget. Annual Corporate Report from the Office of the Auditor General for the year 2019-2020. Annual Report and Financial Statements of the National Research Fund for the year ended 30th June 2020. Annual Report and Financial Statements of the Independent Policing Oversight Authority for the year ended 30th June 2019. Staff Mortgage Scheme Annual Report and Financial Statements for the year ended 30th June 2017 from the Office of the Auditor General. Annual Report and Financial Statements of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission for the year ending 30th June 2021. Annual Report and Financial Statements of the Commission on Administrative Justice for the year 2021-2022. Annual Report and Financial Statements of the Higher Education Loans Board for the year ended 30th June 2017, 30th June 2018, 30th June 2019, and 30th June 2020. The 28th biannual report of the Monetary Policy Committee for the period April 2022 from the Central Bank of Kenya. Annual report and financial statements of the Kenya Reinsurance Corporation Limited for the year ended 2021. The 50th Monetary Policy Statement for the period June 2022 by the Central Bank of Kenya. The Bank Supervision Annual Report for the year 2020 from the Central Bank of Kenya. Public Financial Management Reforms Program for the period December 2020 from the National Treasury. Honorable Speaker, the annual report and financial statements of the Kenya Law Reform Commission for the year 2021-2022. Public Financial Management Reform Strategy for the period 2018 to 2023 from the National Treasury. Performance Audit Report on provision of sanitary towels to girls in private schools by the Ministry of Education. Reports of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following institutions for the year ended 30th June 2021 and certificates therein. Honorable Speaker, number one is Naivasha Technical and Vocational Training College, Matili Technical Training Institute, Masai Mara University, Bushiangala Technical Training Institute, Kenya National Assurance Company 2021, Kenya National Assurance Company Limited, Small Enterprises Finance Company Limited, Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, Geothermal Development Company Limited, Agri and Cooperative Training and Consultancy Services Limited, Kenyatta University, Kenya Institute of Special Education, Multimedia University of Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology Industrial Park Limited, Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, Kenya Electricity Transmission Company Limited, National Oil Corporation of Kenya, Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation, Coast Institute of Technology, Technical and Vocational Education and Training Authority, Kenya National Commission for UNESCO, the Kenya Scouts Association, Kenya National Examinations Council, National Biosafety Authority, and Postal Corporation of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, there are reports of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following constituencies for the year ended 30th June 2021 and the certificates therein. Number one, Chepalungu, Mwingi North, Embakasi West, Tinderet, Igembe South, Igembe North, Mahara, Keses, North Imenti, Mbeere North, Central Imenti, Keio North, Turkana North, Turkana Central, Kuisoro, North Hor, Samburu West, Laikipia East. And then Mumias East, Teso North, Saboti, Laikipia West, Samburu East, Lurambi, Sirisia, Mwala, and finally, Honorable Speaker, Baringo South. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Proceed. What's wrong with your mic? Oh yeah, proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question 033 of 2022 to the Cabinet Secretary for Roads and Transport. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide the current implemented status for all roads under construction in Yatta constituency? Question number 2, could the Cabinet Secretary explain delays in the upgrading to bitumen standards of Katangi to Matu Road, Kidimani to Katangi Road, Dalani to Makuyu Road in Yatta constituency, considering the importance in enhancing the economic potential of the region? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
My mic is not working? Okay, to be replied before the Departmental Committee on Transport and Infrastructure. We go to the next question. The Honorable Member for Kirinyaga Central, Honorable Joseph Gitari. Joseph Gitari, oh yes, Joseph Gitari has requested for this question to be deferred, and it's so directed. This question is deferred. The next question is the Honorable Wanjuku Mihia MP, MP for Kipipiri. Proceed, Madam Muhia. Muhia.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I wish to put a question 035
Order.
2020.
Is that mic working? Use the next one. Use the next one. I had known you as Moria. I didn't even proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I wish to ask a question 035/2022. And the question is that, could the Cabinet Secretary explain why the construction of Captain Wajohi Geta Donyojelo Road in Kipipiri constituency has stalled despite the project having been funded? Question 2, related to the same. Could the ministry state when the contractor will resume work on the said road and provide expected completion timeline for this project? Finally, on the same, could the Cabinet Secretary provide the measures to maintain and make this road passable, considering the importance of this Wajohi Geta Road to economic well-being of the area residents, particularly transportation of milk and other farm produce to markets? Honorable Speaker, I'm not able to sleep because of this road. I ask this House through the Committee of Transport to assist me because I have done everything humanly possible, including sending photos and videos for this road to everyone, the Cabinet Secretary, the DG, Kadie, all the engineers in Nyandarua County, and I'm not getting help. I'm only getting nightmares because even a sick person cannot be taken to the hospital. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
These are some of the challenges of our own way of doing things, because the cabinet ministers or the CSs do not come to the House. And during our time when we were under the old constitution, they were obligated because they were members of parliament. And the chair had certain authority over them to make sure that they respond adequately to the satisfaction of Kenyans and this House. But now we can only emphasize more that they need to do something on this. This to be replied before the Departmental Committee on Transport and Infrastructure. The next question, the Honorable Member for Maragua, Honorable Mary Wamaua.
Thank you, Speaker. I'd like to ask you the following question to Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise Development. One, could the Cabinet Secretary provide details on the current organizational structure, directorship?
Order. What is the issue, Madam Muhia?
Very urgent.
Precisely so. Who is the chair of this committee? Cabinet Ministry for... Yeah, but who is the chair? Oh, GK. And where's GK today? The Honorable GK, are you in the House? Any member of the committee who is here, could you please identify yourself for the benefit of the chair? So, the chair cannot emphasize it anymore, that this committee needs to do its own work right and to come up with a satisfactory answer at the earliest opportunity to this House. Proceed, Honorable Wamaua Mary.
Thank you, Speaker. Let me repeat. Mr. Speaker, I like to ask you the following question from the Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives, Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development. One, could the Cabinet Secretary provide details on the current organizational structure, directorship, membership and shareholders of the New Kenya Planters Cooperative Union, NKPCU Limited? Two, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the modus operandi of the new KPCU FAD? Three, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the measures that the government is putting in place to provide affordable, sustainable, and accessible tele-advances to small-scale coffee growers? Four, could the Cabinet Secretary provide a status report regarding the defunct Kenya Planters Cooperative Union, popularly known NKPCU, including its establishment, registration, and the process of liquidation? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
To be replied by the before the Departmental Committee on Cooperatives and Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises. That's the committee. Is that the right title of the committee? Can you give me that one? This thing has got some issues. This thing is not showing. Yeah, to be replied before the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperative. Next order. Oh, this is the statement. The Honorable Gonzirai has demanded a statement. Where is he? Here I am, Mr. Speaker. Proceed. Okay. Proceed on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I arise to request a statement regarding the chemical spillage at Maili Kuba village, Kinango constituency. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44, into brackets 2, into brackets C, I rise to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Environment, Forest and Mining regarding the spillage of substance at Mailikuba village in Kinango constituency, where a tank ferrying the said chemical overturned. Honorable Speaker, we are worried of an environmental pollution caused by a substance where a tank overturned and poured its contents at Mailikuba village in Kinango constituency. The tragic incident has a lot of destruction to livestock and properties, including the 37 cows belonging to Mr. Majoto. The substance spilled near Msufi water pan, the only existing water pan for the residents of Maili Kuba. The area has begun to receive rain and the substance is slowly being drained into the water pan, hence causing health risks dangerous for human and animal consumption. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the chairperson, Departmental Committee on Environment, Forest and Mining on the following. 1, could the chairperson state the immediate steps taken to ascertain the level of toxicity of the substance that has caused losses and damage of the environment? 2, could the chairperson state the measures the government is putting in place to ensure safety and security at Mailikuba area? 3, further, could the chairperson explain the plan the government has in place to compensate the victims who lost livestock occasioned by the substance spillage? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Where is the chair or the Departmental Committee on Environment, Forestry and Mining? Who is the chair? And where is he? Chair of the Departmental Committee on Environment, Forestry and Mining. Where is the Honorable Gikaria? In Juba. Is there any member of the committee here? Could you commit yourself at the earliest possible to get us an answer on this? This is a statement. Ordinarily, you must have an answer within 48 hours unless the rules have changed. Have the rules changed? Okay, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Honorable Beatrice Kemei on behalf of the chair. Give us 14 days and we will...
14 days?
Yes.
Ordinarily, it's supposed to be 48 hours. That's why it used to be called a question by private notice in the olden days. Am I right?
Mr. Speaker, sir, the chair is
indisposed for the time being.
Yes.
But the system is there.
Okay,
in any case, you're going to get this answer not from the chair. It just comes in through the chair as a conduit, but there's a ministry involved. Can you go to the cabinet secretary and get us this answer at the very latest by Tuesday next week?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Proceed.
I comply.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 8, motion, approval of nominees to various constituency development fund committees.
Okay, proceed. The chair, you can move the motion.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the motion on approval of nominees to the various constituency development funds committee. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to section 55 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act of 2015, the Select Committee on NGCDF of the National Assembly is mandated to consider and report to the National Assembly with recommendation names of the persons required to be approved by the National Assembly under the Act, amongst others,
Order, 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 Honorable Sinema.
Yes.
I know you've also been not in Parliament for a while, but you move the motion first before you debate it. You say, I beg to move, and then you read the motion.
I started. I
Is
started
that so?
with that.
I thought you started the
said,
debate.
I beg to move.
And then read it verbatim as it is.
Yes.
Proceed.
I beg to move, Mr. Speaker, that this House adopts the report of the Select Committee on the National Government Constituency Development Fund laid on the table of the House on Thursday, November 17th, 2022, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 43(4) of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015 and paragraph 5(2) and 10 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Regulations 2016, approves the list of the nominees to the appointment to the following 68 constituencies committee of the National Government Constituency Development Fund, as per the order paper published. Yes. Mr. Speaker, the names which we have received so far is and approved is 124. Today we are approving 68. Mr. Speaker, I want to urge the members who have not submitted their names that time is not on their side. Mr. Speaker, it is incumbent upon members to push their fund managers in where they are so that we can be able to finish this matter. The last group is we shall be having as a committee tomorrow. And if you miss on that, possibly you will wait for next year. Mr. Speaker, we want to agree with all the members that this is something of utmost importance, and we need also the legal minds of this House to help us to move forward in terms of the interpretation of the ruling of the Supreme Court so that we can be able to get our funds as early as possible. Mr. Speaker, we want the Jailer Committee and others so that everybody will be comfortable in this House. Mr. Speaker, since we have come all the way to the position we are, Kenyans cannot afford to do harambes again, which is an old way of doing things, to build classes, to buy desks in schools, to be able to pay bursaries for our students or our pupils. We need this money, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, let us unite as a team in this House and work out on an interpretation of this so that we can be able to access these funds to our constituencies. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move. I am asking Honorable Chepkonga to second this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion that has been moved by the Honorable Sirma, the chairman of the NGCDF. Mr. Speaker, as you know, this is a very important tool in terms of development. It is in fact been recognized by the United Nations that development at the communal level, Mr. Speaker, is the engine that moves development in a country. And in fact, it's encouraging countries, Mr. Speaker, to devolve national resources to the constituencies, to the counties, Mr. Speaker. And this is one of them from the national government, Mr. Speaker. There is a misnomer that it is assumed that these are funds that are meant to be for counties, Mr. Speaker. It is not intended for counties, Mr. Speaker. This is purely for national government to develop infrastructural facilities in educational institutions. Mr. Speaker, I get very surprised when we hear people thinking that it is money that the members of parliament walk around in the constituencies, dishing them to whoever they like or their brokers, Mr. Speaker. That is a complete misnomer, Mr. Speaker. The ones of our brokers, Mr. Speaker, we have our own salaries. We spend our salaries, Mr. Speaker, on our brokers. We don't spend them on, we don't spend CDF on people that we may like. This is a community development process, Mr. Speaker. It is driven by public participation. The members of public participate in identifying the projects. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I am one of the stakeholders whom I am asked to identify what projects do you want to be funded in my constituency, Mr. Speaker. And if you hear, Mr. Speaker, people talking about NGCDF of 2015 having been declared unconstitutional, Mr. Speaker, we want to warn the mandarins in Treasury. They need to get their legal interpretation of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court just mentioned about the NGCDF 2015 obiter, Mr. Speaker. 2015 CDF Act was not part of the act that was being contested upon at the Supreme Court, Mr. Speaker. So I do not see why anyone at the Treasury can imagine, even for 1 minute, that the 2015 NGCDF has been declared unconstitutional, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, I would like to inform you that we as lawyers in this House, who will number about 30, Mr. Speaker, will be appearing in Parliament, in the courts, on the 1st and the 2nd, to defend the rights of Kenyans. Because, Mr. Speaker, Article 95 of the Constitution obligates every member of Parliament to resolve any matter that is of concern to the people of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, this is one matter that is of concern to the public, and it is of concern to our citizens, Mr. Speaker. And we will not allow, Mr. Speaker, we will not allow this thing to go down, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if the judiciary are saying that we are implementing things that the executive are supposed to be implementing, in fact, we should start with the judiciary. They should abandon the construction of courts, and we send all the money to the Ministry of Public Works, so that the Ministry of Public Works can implement the construction of courts across this country. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, when I was the chair of Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, we budgeted a lot of money to Judicial Service Commission, just like Parliamentary Service Commission. And they were building courts, Mr. Speaker, in the tune, for instance, the one in Turkana, which was being constructed by Judicial Service, Mr. Speaker. They constructed a court, a high court, for 999 million shillings, Mr. Speaker. They constructed one in Bomet for 888 million shillings, Mr. Speaker. Isn't that money that is coming from our voters, Mr. Speaker, and from our taxpayers? So, Mr. Speaker, if we are talking about implementation of executive functions, it is being implemented by the judiciary itself. In fact, Mr. Speaker, in the NGCDF, we don't fall anywhere. I don't sit as a member of CDF committee. I don't sign anywhere, Mr. Speaker. The checks has never, in fact, we play our oversight role in accordance with Article 95 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. In fact, we wait until the money is brought to us here, the reports from the Auditor General. And then we subject the Auditor General's report, we look at it, how was the money spent at the constituency level, Mr. Speaker. It has nothing, in fact, I don't know how they spend, Mr. Speaker, the money. In fact, I'm also a stranger. So when somebody issues a ruling that impeaches on the conduct and integrity of the members of Parliament, as if we are spenders of money, we don't spend any money, Mr. Speaker. So with those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I second.
Order. Order, honorable members. The chair has to propose the question first. Propose the motion here. Honorable members, the chair proposes this question. Order, Honorable Junet. I wish now to propose the motion that this House adopts the report of the Select Committee on the National Government Constituency Development Fund laid on the table of the House on Thursday, November the 17th, 2022, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 43, subsection 4 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act of 2015 and paragraphs 5, 2, and 10 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Regulations of 2016, approves the list of nominees for the appointment to the following 68 constituency committees of the National Government Constituency Development Fund. The list is as contained in the order paper of today. Honorable members, I now put the question that this House adopts the report of the Select Committee on the National Government Constituency Development Fund laid on the table of the House on Thursday, November the 17th, 2022, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 43, subsection 4 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act of 2015 and paragraphs 5, 2, and 10 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Regulations of 2016, approves the list of nominees for appointment to the following 68 constituency committees of the National Government Constituency Development Fund. As many of that opinion say aye. As many of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it.
Order number 9, motion, establishment of a parliamentary joint ad hoc committee on a legislative proposal to amend the constitution to entrench certain specified funds.
Majority Leader. Order, Honorable Osoro.
The Honorable Osoro, Honorable Speaker, imagines that he can whip me, being the chief whip. Honorable Speaker, allow me to move that the motion, order number 9, that acknowledging that Article 256 of the Constitution provides for the process of amending the Constitution by parliamentary initiative, further acknowledging that Standing Order 1147A of the National Assembly Standing Orders provides for the process of introducing legislative proposals in respect of propositions amending the Constitution, noting the general debate in the House on the legislative proposal to amend the Constitution to entrench the National Government Constituency Development Fund, the National Government Affirmative Action Fund, the Senate Oversight Fund, and the Economic Stimulus and Empowerment Fund in the Constitution, cognizant of the comments and views of honorable members during general debate on the legislative proposal, recognizing the need for a bicameral approach on the proposal prior to publication of the relevant bill, acknowledging that the subject matter of the legislative proposal cuts across the mandate of more than one committee of the House. Now, therefore, in furtherance to the provisions of Article 256 of the Constitution on amendment of by a parliamentary initiative, this House resolves the following. 1, to establish a joint parliamentary ad hoc committee on a proposal to amend the Constitution to entrench certain specialized funds comprising 9 members from each of the Houses of Parliament to do the following. A, to facilitate collation of views from the comments by members of Parliament during the general debate on the proposal, and inviting members with similar or related proposals to make submissions before the committee. B, to invite, engage with, and consider submissions from stakeholders and relevant constitutional and statutory bodies with a law reform mandate, including the Attorney General and the commissions and independent offices established under Chapter 15 of the Constitution. C, in consultation with the sponsors, attempt to develop and recommend a harmonized version of the proposal arising from the submissions received. And D, report to the Houses of Parliament within 90 days to enable the speakers to make a decision and give direction on whether or not the legislative proposal is to be published into a bill or not to be proceeded with. 2, that the offices of the clerks of Houses of Parliament provide secretarial services to the Joint Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee in accordance with our standing orders. 3, that the following members present represent the National Assembly in the Joint Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee. My Apologies, Honorable Speaker. I seek your indulgence. I should have mentioned that I am moving this motion, understanding order number 48 in an amended form. And maybe I will mention the area that I want to amend now in these three. One is the Honorable Samuel Kiprono Chepkonga MP, who seconded the earlier motion as a co-chairperson. Two, Honorable Speaker, on the order paper there was the Honorable George Gitonga Murugara MP. That is where we are amending to replace the Honorable George Gitonga Murugara MP with the Honorable Rebecca Tonkei MP. Three, the Honorable Ekomas Mwengi Mutuse MP. Four, the Honorable Wakili Edward Mureu MP. Five, the Honorable Catherine Nanjala Wambilianga MP. Six, the Honorable John Badi EGH MP. Seven, the Honorable Dr. Otiende Amolo MP. Eight, the Honorable David Mwalika Mboni MP. Nine, the Honorable Kakai Bisau MP. 10, the Honorable Robert Gishimu Githinji MP, who is co-opted, a co-opted member. And the second co-opted member is a co-sponsor of the motion, the Honorable Stephen Mule MP, who is also a co-opted member. Four, Honorable Speaker, to request the Senate to appoint a similar number of members to represent the Senate in the Joint Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee. Honorable Speaker, as members will recall, on Wednesday, 2nd November this year, the Honorable Gishimu Githinji MP and the Honorable Stephen Mule MP made a statement on the legislative proposal to amend the Constitution to entrench the funds, the National Government Constituency Fund, the National Government Affirmative Fund, the Senate Oversight Fund, and the Economic Stimulus and Empowerment Fund in the Constitution. Honorable Speaker, following that statement, over 120 members made their general remarks on this legislative proposal, and in this regard, and pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 114.7a, you, Honorable Speaker, committed to facilitate the collation of views from members in an appropriate forum. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, the House Business Committee in its sitting proposed the establishment of this joint ad hoc committee to collect the views raised by members. Considering that the legislative proposal, Honorable Speaker, touches on the functions of county governments in terms of Article 110 of the Constitution, then it therefore necessitates this to be a consideration of the matter in a bicameral manner. Hence, the request for the Senate to appoint a similar number of members to represent the Senate in the Joint Ad Hoc Committee. Honorable Speaker, the committee, if approved, will carry out very structured public participation in accordance with the provisions of Article 118, 1B of the Constitution, and should be able to report back to both houses in 90 days to enable you, Honorable Speaker, to make a decision and give direction on whether the legislative proposal then should be published into a bill or not. Honorable Speaker, as you put the question on the earlier motion, Honorable Speaker, on the constitution of constituency fund committees, I did hear the Honorable Speaker, if you can allow the leaders in the minority to consult and pass a note to me on the further amendment, with your indulgence, that they intend to make on the list, but also to encourage them to be doing these consultations earlier, not on the floor. And to also consider incorporating...
Order. Chair actually notices the serious imbalance of gender in here.
That's what Honorable Speaker was going to say, that from the 9 members, Honorable Speaker, the majority had 5 slots, the minority had 4 slots. The majority, Honorable Speaker, has done very well because we have complied with the 2/3 gender rule. Out of the 5 members, we have 2 honorable ladies, the Honorable Rebecca Tonkei, MP, and the Honorable Catherine Nanjala Wambilianga, MP. The minority side has 4 slots, So I would encourage them as they constitute in the other house to consider the issue of gender balance. Honorable Speaker, if you indulge the minority side, they seek to replace the Honorable David Mwalika Mboni with the Honorable Yusuf Hassan, the Member of Parliament for Kamukunji. Therefore, I wish to move then in that amended form. There is, out of the 9, we have the 2 ladies, and members, we also appreciate that is also a consideration to incorporate members and members of parliament living with disability. And I am informed by the whip and the minority leader, they intended to accommodate a member, a PWD member in the ad hoc committee. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, if you may indulge me, as the Honorable Pukosa requests, I may go through the list again, that the following members represent the National Assembly in the joint parliamentary ad hoc committee. 1, the Honorable Samuel Chepkonga, MP, co-chairperson. In place of the Honorable George Gitonga Murugara, to have the Honorable Rebecca Tonkei, MP. The Honorable Ekomas Mwengi Mutuse, MP. The Honorable Wakili Edward Mureu, MP. The Honorable Catherine Anjala Wabilianga, MP. The Honorable John Buddy, EGH, MP. The Honorable Dr. Otiende Amolo, MP. In place of the Honorable David Mwalika Mboni, MP, we shall now have the Honorable Yusuf Hassan, MP, the Member of Parliament for Kamukunji. The Honorable Kakai Bisau, MP, and the 2 co-opted members, who fortunately are 1 from either coalition. The Honorable Shimu Githinji, MP, as a co-opted member, and the Honorable Stephen Mule, MP, co-opted. Honorable Speaker, I was just saying as we moved, as you rose to put the question on the earlier motion, I did hear the minority whip ask, for how long shall we lament about CDF? For how long? For how long is the question? And the answer could lie in this ad hoc committee. Because as the Honorable Chepkonga said, as he seconded that motion, indeed the National Government Constituency Development Fund is under imminent threat of extinction. And it's rather unfortunate, Honorable Speaker, that those who speak and those who sponsor the court cases, Honorable Speaker, and it's a good thing, Honorable Speaker, that in the previous 2 parliaments, in the 11th and 12th parliament, we had run-ins with our sister house in the Senate. And to be honest, they cannot run away from being part of the co-sponsors of the court cases that pervade on issues to do with NGCDF. But I am glad, Honorable Speaker, that in this 13th assembly, we have started off very well. And it is indeed laudable that even as a House Business Committee considered an ad hoc committee, recognizing that this matter also touches on counties, and there is also the Senate Oversight Fund that is envisaged to be incorporated into a constitution just like NGCDF. We are now having a joint ad hoc committee, a parliamentary joint ad hoc committee. And I really want to take this opportunity to speak to our brothers and our sisters in the Senate and the other rather busy bodies out there, Honorable Speaker, who fight NGCDF imagining that they are fighting with members of parliament. NGCDF, as we have all stated here, and I think that during the general debate on this proposal, members were very emphatic, that NGCDF has absolutely nothing and no benefit to the member of parliament. This is a fund that benefits millions of Kenyans, millions of young children today, Honorable Speaker, who do not know whether they will report to school in January because not a single constituency in this country has funds to award bursaries. All of us, including myself, Honorable Speaker, I am even afraid of stepping into my constituency office in Kikuyu. Every Monday in my constituency office, out of about 120 to 130 people who patronize that office, 105 in the last 1 month have been patronizing my constituency office looking for bursaries. I do not have the funds. Honorable Speaker, unless those who sponsor these court cases can tell us that the government of the Republic of Kenya has adequate funds to ensure that education is completely free, then we have no choice but to have NGCDF in place to benefit the millions of our children who are suffering out there. I hear the leader of minority adding the question of classrooms. Honorable Speaker, you have seen the challenge that government has had to live with, and I have seen the new cabinet secretary in charge of the interior. They are criminals. But the most effective way of dealing with criminals is ensuring that we have officers, boots on the ground, in our neighborhoods, in our estates, in our villages. That cannot happen without NGCDF rolling out the construction of security police posts and police stations in our neighborhoods, Honorable Speaker. It is not enough to speak about police officers patrolling. You will make them patrol the streets of the CBD in the next few days. Unless the Member of Parliament for Kamukunji, the Honorable Yusuf, is able to construct police posts in Gikomba, in Majengo, and have officers reside within the communities where they are working, then the question of dealing with insecurity will just be talk for cabinet secretaries in office. They will threaten criminals. Criminals will hide in other places for a few days and reemerge the moment they don't see officers patrolling our streets. Therefore, I just want to tell them the most effective way to ensure that our people are secure is to ensure that you facilitate members of parliament to be able to identify the needs of the people in terms of security needs and be able to identify where NGCDF committees, together with the national government board, the NGCDF board, will construct police posts to ensure that all our neighborhoods are secure. Honorable Speaker, last parliament when I chaired the budget committee, we, together with the Honorable Julius Melly, we tried to implore on the Ministry of Education when they started the talk of doing CBC classrooms, that this process and this project was better rolled out under NGCDF, and there was a lot of resistance from the Ministry of Education. Today, Honorable Speaker, these members will tell you, in all our backyards, we have miniature classrooms, because they are not standard classrooms, and members will bear me witness. The classrooms built apparently for junior secondary by the Ministry of Education under CS Magoha, they are actually junior classrooms. They are miniature classrooms. They are not standard classrooms. And the cost of building those classrooms, the cost is way above what members of the NGCDF committees utilize to construct standard classrooms. Honorable Speaker, the value of NGCDF is not just in construction of infrastructure for security and classrooms. It is the economic value that the public also derives from activities that come with construction of that infrastructure at the constituency level, Honorable Speaker. Because when contractors are procured by NGCDF committees, most of those contractors are local contractors. It is local labor that is deployed. When the ministry procures under a national framework people to build classrooms, they procure from Jogoo House in Nairobi, and they bring in foreigners to construct those classrooms. And no wonder, Honorable Speaker, the Ministry of Education was very hesitant to roll out that project of junior classrooms or junior secondary school miniature classrooms. And many of them now dot our schools. I would estimate probably, based on what I see in my own constituency, 60% are incomplete. But the budget is exhausted. there is not a single NGCDF project you will find in my constituency, and I'll just give my constituency because I know my constituency better than any other, that you will find the budget is exhausted and the project is incomplete. In most cases, with NGCDF committees, because it is members of the public who are implementing these projects through their project management committees, they will complete projects and probably even have a saving that they then use to equip those classrooms. Therefore, I cannot underscore the value of NGCDF. And I say not to the member of parliament, but to the public and even to the country's economy. And that's what I was saying. When you implement these projects at the local level, you buy cement, you buy masonry, you buy sand, you procure local labor, and money is devolved, money is left at the local level, unlike when you roll out government projects at the national level. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, it is quite important that even as we compose and constitute this ad hoc committee, that they engage and engage positively with all stakeholders. I would encourage the public participation with this ad hoc committee not to be restricted to Parliament, Senate, and government agencies, but also to go down to the people in the villages. Get to hear from the people the value of NGCDF to them. Finally, Honorable Speaker, I have been very hesitant to speak to our judiciary from this floor. But allow me, Honorable Speaker, to speak to our judiciary, to also be sensitive to the needs and aspirations of the Kenyan people. We have witnessed the rollout of our devolution structures in this country over the last 10 years. But Kenyans will tell you they have seen the impact of CDF better than the impact of devolution in many of our counties and many of our constituents, Honorable Speaker. I therefore want to plead with the judiciary to also listen to the people, even as they listen to the busybodies and activists, many of whom are civil society activists who are doing this to get funding for their civil society organizations, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me not go into much more beyond that because of time. You can see my time is gone, and beg to move and ask members to support the constitution of this ad hoc committee and request the Honorable John Buddy, who is a member of this ad hoc committee, proposed member of this ad hoc committee, to second.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to start in seconding this motion by saying that Kenyans, we are indeed unique. Kenyans are very unique. Kenyans will always kill a very good thing they have started themselves. There are instances in this country where we have seen, and I've seen it in parliament, many countries, many parliaments, many treasuries across the continent coming to Kenya to learn how CDF works. And many countries have now adopted CDF concept and model. Yet Kenyans are very busy killing the same. Something which is so unique, that is so Kenyan, and something that the only thing I would say has succeeded in this country for years without much problems. And so today, Mr. Speaker, we are now discussing that we need to anchor CDF in the Constitution. First, I want to apologize to Kenyans that I was in the 10th Parliament where we passed the new or the 2010 Constitution. And we were in that Parliament with you, Mr. Speaker. But we did not see it fit to entrench CDF into our Constitution. How I wish that we saw this coming and we did it then. But Mr. Speaker, there are individuals who went to court. I know it is their right to go to court. But I think when you are going to court going forward, we need to pass some laws that when you are going to court on a matter of public importance, you should not just file the case alone.
you must accompany it with a number of signatures across the country. 1 million signatures. Because how do you challenge a fund that is a public fund that touches on the lives of Kenyans, and you're just an individual running an NGO, receiving funding from unknown donors, people you want to please that you are doing something. And then now you put us in a situation where the children of Kenya cannot go to school. Some of us, we are here because we went to school, Mr. Speaker. Some of us come from backgrounds that if it were not for education, we would not be where we are today. And you are denying children of Kenya from going to school because of your own activism. And the activism is not just, Mr. Speaker, with these people who went to court. The activism has infiltrated our judicial system. And that is something that needs to be dealt with, Mr. Speaker. I am not condemning judiciary as such, but when you find a judiciary which makes a ruling on an act of parliament of 2013, but without any prompting, mentions something about the act of 2015, then you know that this is judicial activism. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to agree with Honorable Junet Mohamed that this House has lamented too much. And Mr. Speaker, I'm just trying to imagine if the constituency I represented from 2007 to 2022, and which Karoli Omondi is now representing, if we then didn't get CDF funds from 2007 to date, I'm trying to imagine the kind of infrastructure we do have in our schools, both primary and secondary schools. So, Mr. Speaker, these are my suggestions. The time limit for this committee of 90 days is too much. If you ask me, this committee must burn midnight oil during this Christmas, and we do this within 30 days. It is possible because we will still need another 90 days for the bill to be processed. And if you add 90 days to another 90 days to another number of days when the bill is being debated and a number of days before it is assented to, we are talking about almost 1 year. We don't have the luxury of time. This committee, and if it is in the interest of these members to approve it as it is, I'll be a member. We must conclude this, the discussions. We must conclude the processes leading to the bill within 30 days. Finally, Mr. Speaker, there are other funds. And I'm happy now we are working together, or we are going to work together with the Senate. The only thing, I know many people thought that National Assembly didn't want the Senate oversight funds. But I think what we wanted was clarity on how it is going to be disbursed. That is what we are going to discuss with our counterparts in the Senate. We will discuss it and come up with a system where we don't also expose public funds to misuse and wastage. But Mr. Speaker, I said finally, but allow me to say this. Members, I think also when we talk like we disburse these CDF funds, we are giving fodder to the people out there. I have been a member of Parliament of Super South for 15 years. And more particularly for the last 10 years, even the CDF check, I don't handle. The CDF disbursement is done by a committee from the board to the committee to another committee called Project Management Committee to the project itself. The only role a member of parliament would play is to go and witness whether the proposals that were made have actually been implemented. And that is the only role which you do under Article 95 of oversighting, which is perfectly resident in this house and no any other house. And so if there is another person out there who is saying that we are conflicted in our role, that is somebody who does not understand the role of a member of parliament. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I second this motion and support that this is a matter that must be dealt with urgently. Thank you very much.
I notice there are many members who would want to contribute on this thing, but the rules are very clear. The motion is proposed, it is seconded, and the question is proposed. The motion again the question is proposed by the speaker. But order, Order, honorable members. Honorable members, you realize that the Speaker represents a constituency. And primarily because he represents a constituency and he is also in the same predicament, he has bent the rules a little bit to allow this substance and eloquence, attendant eloquence to come out. But let me now take you back. I might have to disappoint you a bit. Honorable members, Standing Order number 259C says, ad hoc committees. A member may, subject to the approval of the House Business Committee, move a motion proposing the establishment of an ad hoc committee on a specific and exceptional subject not under active consideration by a committee of the House. Fair enough. 2, a motion under this standing order shall indicate the proposed name of the committee, which you have already done, outline the proposed mandate of the committee and the exceptional nature of the subject to be considered, and C, indicate the proposed membership and leadership of the committee, which you have already done. The mover of a motion under this standing order shall ensure, A, the proposed membership of the committee reflects the relative majorities of the seats held by each of the parliamentary parties in the National Assembly and takes into account the interests of parties other than parliamentary parties and independents. And independents. B, not more than 2/3 of the proposed membership of the committee are of the same gender. 4, unless the House otherwise resolves, an ad hoc committee shall consider and report on the subject matter of its mandate within 90 days as part of the rules. Honorable members, I think there are 2 within 90 days here. There are 2, the gender and the independents and parties that are not parliamentary parties. You might have, unfortunately, against my very big wish, because I've told you from the beginning I'm an interested party, against my order. Order, Honorable Matuse, you freeze. You might have to go back. Order, Honorable Pokose. Pokose, order. Even if that were to be the case, you still do not have the gender issue right. Order. This House transacts its business on the basis of standing orders. Your House transacts its business on the basis of the standing orders for the National Assembly. We do not say that this provision is going to be over. We will overlook this because the Senate will do this. No. Order. The chair is on his feet. The Honorable Jeanette, you can scratch your hand, but wait until I sit down. Scratch your head. Honorable members, against my very wish, because of interested nature of all of us, I'm one of those people who are going to suffer very hard. To give you just one small view into that, I am supposed to pay for students, 32 students who are doing medicine. And you can understand that. And I don't have the CDF. Order. What did you say? Order. I didn't see it. Under the circumstances, I think the Honorable Ichung'wah Kimani, the majority leader, you might have to go back, do a very clean job, and bring this business at the order. You can move an amendment to the motion. Somebody can move an amendment to the motion, yes. Yes, what's your point of order?
In spite of your ruling,
yes,
in accordance with the standing order, but there is something that you need to look into as the Speaker, Mr. Speaker. Which is the committee complete before it's a joint committee? Because what we are forming here is a joint committee. What's on the order paper is a joint committee of both houses.
This House, this chair, order.
Chair, Mr. Speaker, before you conclude, Mr. Speaker, I was saying that will you look at the gender issue in totality of the committee from both houses or from one house? What happens if the other house brings six honorable members from the other gender. The Speaker said it is the total number of the committee that will have two-thirds gender.
Honorable Junaid Mohammed, you are a very senior member of this House. You do understand. Order, order. Honorable Mbadi, I have a problem with the way you keep on talking very loud and across the aisle. And you are a senior, you are a ranking member, you are an old friend, an old colleague in the House. Please, yeah. What's your point of order, Elachi, Beatrice? Order.
Mr. Speaker, my point of order is that you have read to us the standing orders. And I want to plead with our leadership. I think on this aisle we have women also who can join in that committee. In fact, for the leader, the majority leader did well to come and amend because he realized there was a problem. But then our aisle wants to tell us that our women will be coming from the Senate. So why were we elected here as women in this aisle? It is not fair. In fact, the minority whip should not be saying.
Honorable Pukose, what's your point of order? Honorable Pukose, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, listening to your guidance based on the standing orders and also the list that had been read by the Honorable Majority Leader, I was keenly following, and I realized that for the parties that are not parliamentary, we have Honorable Pisau Kakai, who is from the DAP Kenya, which is not a parliamentary party. We also have the honorable member.
What will you do about the gender issue?
I think that is where now we need to sort.
So the point is, regardless of, in its entirety, the chair, order, honorable members. Please, let's listen to one another.
So I think we can only consult on the
There is
gender.
no, order, honorable,
Yes.
because I've
Okay,
had you, the
thank
chair
you.
has had you. The chair or the Parliament National Assembly cannot transact its business and contravene its own standing orders in the hope another house. If that has got to be done jointly, then it must have come the way the Parliamentary Service Commission came. When you have the list of the senators here with us, the way they were brought, and they can all be, in both cases, approved by this house and the other house too. Now that that has not happened, order, honorable members, where is the majority leader? Yes, can I allow you your point of order? Yes, the lady. Order. There has to be a gender balance. Okay. Yes, the honorable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You have clearly pronounced yourself as the Speaker of this House that in line with our standing orders,
yes,
the proposed committee, whether joint or standing committee, requires that we include both gender. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I am very excited that you have seen it wise to raise this issue, because this is an issue that has been rolling in this House. We have had a lot of processes happening in this House where women are ignored. And to put it in record, Mr. Speaker, this 13th Parliament has had a share of very many women coming back, re-elected, representing single constituencies. In the 12th Parliament, we had 23 women. Yeah. Currently, we have 29 women who also have a lot of interest on CDF. And therefore, if there is any committee that is going to be done to address matters on CDF, women must be 100% included. And we therefore support you, Mr. Speaker. Let us abide by the standing order and let us go the way the parliamentary procedures are supposed to be handled. Thank you.
Order, honorable member for Nyando. The honorable member for Nyando. The honorable gracious lady next to Honorable Makilap. I don't know your name, but I notice you. What's your point of order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Beatrice Kemei, County MB Kericho. I stand to appreciate what you have seen, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'm wondering, is it in order for the leader of majority to tell us that the two-third gender rule here applies, because he's actually trying to replace the place of women with people living with disability, from what he said. I would imagine even people living with disability would also replace the other gender. So I want to really appreciate the fact that the standing order has guided us through you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Order, honorable members, you can rest assured. Order. Order. You can rest assured that this chair will never put this question unless the motion itself, one way or the other, conforms to the standing orders. Honorable Ichungwa, proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and let me also thank you for jogging the House to the provisions of Standing Order 259, because we are a house of procedures and records, and it's only fair that we follow our own rules and procedures. And pursuant. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 48, Honorable Speaker, I then seek to make the following amendment, Honorable Speaker, that on item number 3,
Honorable Kimani Ichungwa, my presumption is that you want to conform to the standing orders of the House.
Yes.
Can I now give you the best way to do it? I will propose the question. You get my point? Then you move, because the motion has already been moved and seconded. I will propose the motion. And then you can do the amendment.
Okay.
Is that okay? That's okay. Are we in agreement? Okay, let me now do that. No change. Order, honorable members. Honorable members, the chair proposes the question. That acknowledging that Article 256 of the Constitution provides for the process of amending the Constitution by parliamentary initiative, further acknowledging that Standing Order number 114, sub-article 7A of the National Assembly Standing Orders provides for the process of introducing legislative proposals in respect of propositions amending the Constitution, not in the general debate in the House on the legislative proposal to amend the Constitution to entrench the National Government Constituencies Development Fund, the National Government Affirmative Action Fund, the Senate Oversight Fund, and the Economic Stimulus and Empowerment Fund in the Constitution, cognizant of the comments and views of honorable members during the general debate on the legislative proposals, recognizing the need for a bicameral approach on the proposal prior to publication of the relevant bill, acknowledging that the subject matter of the legislative proposal cuts across the mandate of more than one committee of the House. Now, therefore, in furtherance to the provisions of Article 256 of the Constitution, amendment by parliamentary initiative, this House resolves: 1, to establish a joint parliamentary ad hoc committee on a proposal to amend the Constitution to entrench certain specialized funds comprising 9 members from each of the Houses of Parliament. To facilitate facilitate collation of the views from the comments of the members of Parliament during the general debate on the proposal, and inviting members with similar or related proposals to make submissions before the committee. B, invite, engage with and consider submissions from stakeholders and relevant constitutional and statutory bodies with a law reform mandate, including the Attorney General and the commissions and independent offices established under Chapter 15 of the Constitution. C, in consultation with the sponsors, attempt to develop and recommend a harmonized version of the proposal arising from the submissions received. D, report to the House of Parliament within 90 days to enable the speakers to make a decision and give direction on whether or not the legislative proposal is to be published into a bill or not to be proceeded with. That the offices of the Clerk of Houses of Parliament provide secretariat services to the Joint Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee in accordance with standing orders. So the following members, and this is where the leader of the majority in consultation with all the relevant state, other parliamentary bodies in conformity with our standing orders, that the following: the Honorable Samuel Kiprono Chipkongo, Chairperson; the Honorable Tonkei Rebecca; the Honorable Ekomas Mwengi Mutuse; the Honorable Wakili Edward Muriu; the Honorable Catherine Nanjala Wambilianga; the Honorable John Mbadi; the Honorable Otiende Amolo; the Honorable Hassan Yusuf; the Honorable Kaikai; the Honorable Robert Gichumu Gidinji as a co-opted; the Honorable Stephen Mwele as co-opted. The position of the chair is that you have undertaken to move that amendment to this list to conform with the standing order number 259C. 259. And then to request the Senate to also appoint a similar members to represent the Senate and Joint Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee. This House is only in charge. The chair only chairs the debates that are conducted in the National Assembly of the Republic of Kenya, and the obligation to observe the strict prints of the standing orders themselves. Proceed, Honorable Majority Leader, because I proposed the question, but it's up to you now to, or whoever else you want to use, to move those amendments, because you're allowed under the standing orders to move an amendment now.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I beg to move that pursuant to standing order number 48, Honorable Speaker, that we amend the motion on clause 3, that the following members represent the National Assembly in the Joint Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee. One will be the Honorable Samuel Kiprono Chepkonga, MP, as a co-chairperson. 2 will be the Honorable Rebecca Tonkei, MP. 3, the Honorable Ekomas Mwengi Mutuse, MP, representing the non-parliamentary political parties. 4, the Honorable Wakili Edward Mureu, MP. The Honorable Catherine Nanjala Bilianga, MP. The Honorable John Buddy, EGH, MP. The Honorable Dr. Otiende Amolo, MP. The Honorable Yusuf Hassan, MP. The Honorable Kakai Bissau, MP, also representing the non-parliamentary political parties on the side of the minority. Then we will add the Honorable Beatrice Elachi, MP. We will...
Order. Can the chair, in strict compliance to this, you must have an independent at least one there, because it... Okay.
Honorable Chair, if you could also be a little bit patient, I was getting there.
Proceed, Honorable Ichunga. Proceed, the Majority Leader. Abundance of caution.
You know, Honorable Speaker, you may know that I am a stickler to rules and procedures from my first term in this House. And therefore, I did indicate indeed, Honorable Speaker, that besides the issue of gender and the non-parliamentary political parties, we also obligated, in line with our own standing orders, to have an independent member. Yes. And the 11th member of this committee shall be, if approved, the Honorable Timothy Kipchumba Toroitich, who represents the independents in this particular ad hoc committee, and of course now the 2 co-opted members. With that, Honorable Speaker, I beg then to move that amendment and request the Honorable...
You have already moved it, so now it's for general debate.
Yeah, Honorable Speaker, now as amended, it duly complies with our standing orders. We have very good gender representation, but I really want to speak to my colleagues in the minority to ensure that they always incorporate members from the to comply with the 2/3 gender rule, and also to accommodate independents. I am glad they had indeed accommodated the non-parliamentary political parties just like we had done on our side. And we have also now accommodated the independents on our side, and that caters for even the minority side. And with that, I beg to move, Honorable Speaker.
Order. Okay, proceed now then.
I wanted to request for the amendment to be seconded by the Honorable Deputy Leader of the Minority, the Honorable Robert Mbui.
Proceed, Honorable Robert Mbui, and second the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll take advantage as I second this motion to also make my comments, because I think what we've gone through is really to make sure that I second the amendment. I love what I mean. Thank you. So, Mr. Speaker, my opinion is that this committee is extremely important, Mr. Speaker, because you see, for those of us who are elected, when you go back to the villages, Mr. Speaker, I want to make my contribution as I do the amendment, propose the amendment. Is that okay, Mr. Speaker?
Order. I still have a problem. Order, Honorable Member.
I saw that there could be an issue.
Yes, there's an issue. The Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, you are supposed to have at least 4 women in there, because you have 11 members, and a third of that, you cannot have more than 2/3 as male. And that does not include the 2 co-opted members, because those are co-opted. They're not substantive members of these are the movers of the motion, of what you call the bill, or the motion for that matter. We have 3, you need 1 more.
Honorable Speaker.
It doesn't matter whether you take an independent who is a woman, or you take what you call a minority party, a non-parliamentary party who is a woman, but there have to be a minimum of
Honorable Speaker, with your indulgence, and I know the Deputy Leader of Minority has noted that problem, and that is precisely why I was asking him to second this motion, Honorable Speaker. Because if you look at the numbers, we are 11 of us, 6 from the majority and 5 from the minority. When we had 5 members, we had 2 ladies out of 5. They had 4 with no lady. Now we are 6 with 2 ladies. So we have complied with the 2/3 gender rule. Therefore, it behoves on the minority to comply with the constitutional obligation to have 2/3. And that means the minority then must give us another lady. And they are very nice, intelligent, beautiful ladies in the minority. Therefore, the Honorable Deputy Leader of Minority, I want to implore on you, consider any of these ladies in the minority to add them. 2 out of 6, we have complied with the 2/3 gender rule. You are the ones who have not complied.
What's your point? Yes, Honorable Junet, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Gogo, please take your seat.
Mr. Speaker, first, what we have come across today here is very unfortunate, because this matter, before it found itself on the order paper, it should have been done with, the Parliament should have looked at it, the clerks should have looked at it, and they should have conformed with Standing Order 256, the way you've said.
259.
259.
Yes.
259. The clerks should have...
Please, on a point of order, the Honorable Makilap. Makilap, the Honorable Junet is on a point of order. You cannot have a point of order on a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, you know, this is a house of
Order, proceed.
Mr. Speaker,
order.
This matter should not have found itself on the order paper without conforming to Standing Order 259 in the first place. But having found ourselves in this situation, because if you do not look at it critically, the way you have looked at it, it will have just passed. But I think the assumption was the committee will be in full, and the committee will be looked at in terms of gender parity in totality together with members from the Senate. And you know, Mr. Speaker, Senate have too many gender, the other side. They have 16 nominated women who can be put in there. But what we do now, I propose that the majority leader drops the last name he brought and changes with the Honorable Ngeleshe, who is both independent and who is also a lady, Mr. Speaker. She is very competent, I know her.
This House, Honorable Junet.
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Junet.
Okay, nimenyamaza.
Yes, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Emuhaya. MP for Emuhaya, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Notwithstanding everything that has been said by Honorable Junet on the fact that we should have never found ourselves where we are, I want to beseech the leadership led by the leader of majority and together with the leadership of minority as they consult to make sure that the requisite amendments that you have actually asked as per our standing orders be achieved, because the matter we are dealing with is of grave importance and we cannot afford to ping-pong with each other over who to be there, except reach the required threshold of our own standing orders. So I want to beseech the leader of majority and the leader of minority who is laughing to make sure that they make these amendments quickly and we have this committee in place. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The MP for Nyando, what's your point of order?
Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you most sincerely because for the first time we have somebody coming out in defense of our women and in conformity with the Constitution. I wish you were the President, Honorable Speaker. We would not be having a matter before court on PSS today. But this is what I wanted to say. I was doing my calculation, and out of 11, a third of 11 came to 3.6.
Which is 4.
Therefore, and because there is no decimal human being, Honorable Speaker, with your guidance, we could have overlooked that and make do with the composition that we have, because we are still within the margin, Honorable Speaker, and I thank you.
Order, Honorable Member for Nyando. The rules are very clear. If it is 0.5 and above, then of course you go to the next number. If it's below 0.5, then you go to the lower number.
You know, Honorable Speaker.
Can we allow now the majority leader? Yes.
Honorable Speaker, you have to indulge the member for Nyando.
Yes.
I hear him massaging you that he wishes you are the president. And he never considered you in his coalition to run for president. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, just forgive the member of Nyando. He is here to settle down and accept that things are what they are. Honorable Speaker, I beg to amend the motion again. A further amendment to replace the Honorable Kakai Bissau MP with the Honorable Zamzam Mohammed MP from Mombasa County, the county women rep for Mombasa, and that effectively makes our minority gender compliant. And I really want to encourage the Honorable Speaker, not just the leadership, even the membership in the minority. The Honorable Member for Nyando is speaking about things that have not been complied with elsewhere. But first look at the log in your own eye in the minority. A simple committee of 5 members, you could not achieve that gender parity, But in the spirit of moving forward, Honorable Speaker, I beg that we support that amendment.
You move the amendment and you ask for who is going to second.
I want to ask the Honorable Nyikal
to second.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to make the debate and the process today as constitutional as possible and acknowledge that every time we are making lists, we are appointing people, we must be alive to the constitutional requirement. Mr. Speaker, I therefore second that I hope you will give me time to make further contributions on the motion as amended. But now I second the amendment.
Honorable Nyikal, now that you have seconded the motion, I don't think you'll have another opportunity again to contribute to the
In
same
that
motion.
case, Mr.
So proceed with your contribution.
So, Mr. Speaker, now that I've seconded, Mr. Speaker, I wish to proceed. Mr. Speaker, Article 95 gives members of parliament the authority to deliberate on matters that affect the people of this country. The issue at hand is one such matter. Kenyans across the country, Mr. Speaker, appreciate, acknowledge that CDF is the most cost-effective fund. You look at the classrooms that we do compared to the classrooms that are done with other funds. The cost difference is huge. The quality is better. The size is bigger. Mr. Speaker, people acknowledge that this is most accessible fund. Mr. Speaker, a classroom burns, a toilet sinks, and within a week after approaching the CDF chair, Mr. Speaker, there is the project management committee has funds and is proceeding to get the building done or the toilet done. Which other fund responds to the people like that? They realize this is the most responsive fund. In terms of bursary, people walk to the chair of the CDF committee, to the fund manager, when there are problems of bursary, when there are problems of security, as our colleagues said. We cannot have security without the policemen having police lines, having offices. Most chiefs, Mr. Speaker, are using their houses as offices. So, Mr. Speaker, we cannot change what is helping people and stop it because of the law. I think we must now change the law to provide what the people need, Mr. Speaker. The man is not made for law, law is made for man. We must, Mr. Speaker, look at the CDF model as perhaps the best model. The people accept it. It is cost effective. Why can't we use this as a model to use all other funds, whether they are county funds or whether they are national government funds? Instead of trying to kill it, use a model that works. But, Mr. Speaker, as I end, I know this process will take us at least 1 month. But, Mr. Speaker, we cannot, this House cannot go into recess without the funds being disbursed. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, and I would like, Mr. Speaker, to hear this. Mr. Speaker, I would like you to hear this. As I end, this process will take a month at least, but we cannot go into recess without money being disbursed. To that end, Mr. Speaker, I'm proposing that we must have a kamkunji with the Minister for Finance, with the Attorney General, with the Cabinet Secretary for Finance and the Attorney General, as early as possible before we go into recess, so that members can express and the Cabinet Secretary and the Attorney General can appreciate. And you know, Mr. Speaker, sometimes these views that we make, they do determine what happens elsewhere. So I'm proposing once again, we must have a kamkunji to discuss this matter with the Cabinet Secretary from the Treasury and with the Attorney General. The process we support, let it go on, but we must have a kamkunji, and I'm imploring you, Mr. Speaker, that the kamkunji is within the powers of the Speaker. Let that be done before we go into recess. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order, honorable members. Honorable members, honorable members, honorable members, I now wish to propose the amended motion. The motion as amended. That by replacing the Honorable Kaikai Bissau MP with the Honorable Zamzam Mohammed MP, by including the Honorable Beatrice Elachi MP and the Honorable Timothy Torotich MP as members of the committee. I propose the question. Now you can debate. Okay. Yeah. Oh, Honorable Wandai, you have always been the minority leader. Yes, proceed.
Sorry.
Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, after the back and forth, I'm now happy that we are back on track with this motion, which is extremely important, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a motion that I foresee leading us to the first amendment to the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And therefore, its place in history is so crucial, so important. It's only comparable to the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution of 1791.
Order, honorable member, Opio Wandai. Talk to the amendment and talk to the motion. Speak to the motion and speak to the amendment.
Okay, yeah. I'll speak to both.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Speaker, I am just trying to liken this situation that we find ourselves in to the events that unfolded after the promulgation of the U.S. Constitution in Philadelphia in 1786. 4 years later, Mr. Speaker, in 1791, there was the First Amendment that introduced liberties, civil liberties, freedom of expression, freedom of movement, freedom of association, freedom of religion, Mr. Speaker. The First Amendment to the Kenyan Constitution is likely to bring freedom of economic empowerment, Mr. Speaker, of the people of the Republic.
Honorable Wandai.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
This motion is amended.
As amended.
When you carry the amendment, it's not been carried yet. I haven't put in the question for the amendment. When the motion itself is carried, the amended motion is carried,
okay,
then you contribute on the amended motion. But first of all, it has to be carried.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, therefore, can I give you a chance to propose to put the question on the amendment? Yes.
Yeah, that's the point.
So that we can proceed, yes.
That's the point. Honorable members, I now put the question that the motion be amended by replacing the Honorable Kaikai Bissau MP with Honorable Zamzam Mohammed MP, that the motion includes the Honorable Beatrice Elachi and the Honorable Timothy Torotich MPs both as members of the committee. As many of the opinion say aye. Aye. As many of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Now, you can now contribute.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was saying that this is a historic moment for this country. That today we are passing a motion to create an ad hoc committee that is going to midwife the First Amendment to the Constitution of Kenya 2010. It's a situation which I'm likening to what happened in the United States of America immediately after the promulgation of the Constitution in 1786 in Philadelphia, when they realized that they needed to introduce certain liberties, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, freedom of association, and so on and so forth. The First Amendment of the Constitution of the U.S. This First Amendment to the Kenyan Constitution is going to be about economic freedoms. Economic freedoms, Mr. Speaker. That for the first time we are going to have the NGCDF, among other funds, entrenched in the Constitution. to put a stop with finality on the shenanigans that we have witnessed all this time from busybodies, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I am very delighted that we are having this chance in our lifetime. In our lifetime, to make history, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a lot has been said about the NGCDF, which I do not wish to belabor. But I want to concur with the Honorable John Mbadi that this ad hoc committee does not need 90 days. We don't have luxury of time. It can do this work and complete it under 30 days, so that we can fast-track this process of entrenching NGCDF, among other funds, in the Constitution. In the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also want to say this, that even as we work towards entrenching NGCDF and these other funds in the Constitution, this is only going to give us a long-term solution. We still need short-term solution to the problem we are facing. And we should not lose sight of the long-term, of the short-term solution, honorable members. The short-term problem we have, which requires a short-term solution, is that we have got no NGCDF funds in the constituency accounts as we speak. And unless something happens, we may not have those funds until next year. God knows which month. So let us deal with this motion as a matter of addressing the long-term problem, whilst at the same time deal with the short-term problem. And I still insist, I wish the Honorable Chair of the NGCDF committee was here. And I wonder why he can be away. I wonder how the chairman of the NGCDF committee can be away when we're dealing with such an important motion, touching on his docket. He's consulting. And I hope his vice chair is here and other members. Mr. Speaker, we want the members of the NGCDF who are here and who are listening to me. Members of the NGCDF committee, you are there. You are supposed to have convened a meeting with the CS National Treasury and the Attorney General this week, here. That meeting never happened, for whatever reasons. You owe it to us as a parliament that you should have come back to us to explain to us why the meeting never took place and when it's going to take place. Because in under 2 weeks, without necessarily preempting debate, this House is adjourning for a long recess. So we are facing a serious threat to the future of our own children. I heard Honorable Kimani Chungwa say that he's not sure how the children will go to school on 23rd of January. Mr. Speaker, children will not only have problems reporting on 23rd January to school. There are some of them who have spent a whole third term at home. Mr. Speaker, they are children of poor Kenyans who have spent the whole of this third term at home on account of lack of school fees, which was previously being catered for by the NGCDF. They are facing a situation where they will again not report to school for the first time on 23rd of January. So this is a serious matter, Mr. Speaker. And I suppose and I hope that this House will come up with a solution to address the immediate problem which we are facing, even as we address the long-term problem by entrenching the NGCDF and these other funds in the Constitution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Very well, Leader of Minority. Let's have Honorable Jeanette.
I'll be very short. Mr. Speaker, first I want to thank the Leader of Majority for bringing this important motion so that we can dispense off with this issue of the CDF. Mr. Speaker, this issue of CDF has been occurring as a problem in all the parliaments that I served. Last parliament, Mr. Speaker, we've been having a problem with the issue of CDF. the other parliament, we also had an issue with CDF. And Mr. Speaker, the parliament has made attempts several times to align the CDF with the constitution, especially after the new constitution. Attempts were made, and this parliament passed laws that they thought and they believed that CDF now is aligned with the new constitution. But Mr. Speaker, for strange reasons, I call them strange, very strange reasons, the judiciary found that the CDF is unconstitutional. My only worry is this, Mr. Speaker. I don't want Parliament to go to and engage itself in an exercise in futility. What happens in a situation where this committee goes to all the villages in Kenya, collects the relevant information from the people, and then we enact as Parliament an act of Parliament that now makes CDF constitutional. And then the same people go back to court and again declare the same act unconstitutional, Mr. Speaker, because I foresee it happening. Because this war on CDF, the way I see it, is not legal. This war on CDF has got other things. This war, Mr. Speaker, my thoughts are, Mr. Speaker, this war on CDF does not look legal. This war on CDF looks extra legal, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a fund that has benefited many Kenyans. Many parents have taken their children through school, through secondary school and university using CDF. Classrooms were built in many schools. Police stations were constructed, Mr. Speaker. And all those things are on the ground for people to see. So what makes a Kenyan in his own senses, in his normal sense, to go to court so that CDF can be abolished? Mr. Speaker, some of the reasons you'll be given is that, oh, now we have devolution. We don't need CDF. Mr. Speaker, we have been having CDF, I mean devolution now for the last 10 years in this country. What lives have devolution changed, Mr. Speaker? Devolution has only devolved corruption. Kenyans are suffering. People are crying in all counties. No change in the lives of the people. Mr. Speaker, devolution has not changed the life of Kenyans, unless I'm talking about members. I'm sure you'll agree with me that devolution has not changed the lives of Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. But CDF goes directly to benefit the ordinary citizen, Mr. Speaker, who's on the ground. Mr. Speaker, now with all the failures of devolution, with all the failures of devolution, with no CDF, and for you to get development from the national government, Mr. Speaker, the president must visit your locality. That is the only time you can get development in Kenya. That's how the country has been structured, that you have to wait until he appears in your territory, like the way Jesus is coming back. Then is when you tell him, oh, the schools are in problems, we have problems of roads. You can see now some of the members trooping from the minority side to government that they are looking for development. Why should you look for development when money is a constitutional right? It's a right for you to, you are paying taxes, Mr. Speaker, like any other Kenyan. You don't have to beg for development. It's a right. It's a constitutional right. For roads to be done in my constituency is a constitutional obligation. Any government that is in place must do roads in my constituency. I don't have to beg for anyone to do roads in my constituency. And I don't have to wait for the president to come to my constituency so that I get development, Mr. Speaker. If that is what it will take me to wait, I will wait. And we'll wait until the cows come home, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this country has moved on. Under the new constitution, Kenyans are empowered constitutionally. You don't have to ask for any favor. You don't have to lick anybody's boots so that you get development in your constituency. Mr. Speaker, this CDF is a constitutional obligation, is a constitutional right. They are saying it's unconstitutional. But Mr. Speaker, it is the act that has just been nullified by the courts, Mr. Speaker. I strongly believe that act had aligned CDF completely with the Constitution, because there was no role of the Member of Parliament according to that act, Mr. Speaker. That CDF was being operated by a board. The board is the one that sits with the people in the constituency, and they identify which projects they want done in that constituency. Then the board submits those proposals to the CDF board. And the CDF board now funds those projects, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, you remove CDF. Then you remove, you see the corruption and the lethargy that's in the devolution of this country. Then you expect me to wait until the president comes to my constituents for me to get developed. Mr. Speaker, many Kenyans are going to suffer. If we go that way, many children will not go to school. Many children will not be taken to, will not have police stations for security. And I don't know when the president will come to my constituency so that I can ask for development. Mr. Speaker, we cannot suffer. We cannot suffer when we have mechanisms to help our people. When we are the law-making body, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge the committee that has been formed, that's being formed through this motion, that they must expedite this matter. 90 days, I know, is what the standing orders have given, that they should report back within 90 days. But, Mr. Speaker, they are also members of this House. They know the agency of the matter, Mr. Speaker. This is just collection of views from the people. They can divide themselves into groups, and they collect information, and I can tell you, I can promise you today here, that the information that this committee is going to get from the villages, from the people, Mr. Speaker, will be shocking. Because every Kenyan, every village they go, will testify that either my child or my parent or somebody, a relative, must have benefited from CDF in terms of schooling, in terms of roads, and in terms of security, Mr. Speaker. You will see, when this committee starts doing their public hearings, Mr. Speaker, you will be shocked the overwhelming response that this committee will get from the people of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. I wish this kind of public engagements could be done on other funds, including even devolution, Mr. Speaker. If you ask today Kenyans, what are your thoughts on devolution, you will be shocked. The kind of feedback you will get from the Kenyan people. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to belabor the matter, but I want to say, personally myself, I believe that the issue of CDF is not a constitutional issue, it's not a legal issue. This is a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy in the country to fight CDF, Mr. Speaker. And the judiciary is being used to execute that conspiracy. And as you know, the executive will not support it, will not support the CDF, because as of now, with this economic crunch that they are facing, they will be happy every year that they will not be required to send 40 billion, 34 billion to the constituencies. That is money now they can use on other things, Mr. Speaker. You will never see the executive supporting this idea. Politically, they will support. You will see them doing political statements for political posturing, that CDF is an important thing, CDF must be enacted. But in the real sense, let this committee start working. One of the impediments they will face is from the executive, you will see, Mr. Speaker. I can promise you that. You remember in last parliament, Mr. Speaker, it was very difficult funding CDF. We used to get our money, a CDF, like drops of water, Mr. Speaker, like capsules, Mr. Speaker, that the minister has to appear day in, day out in parliament here, then promises, oh, we will send 1 billion shillings this week, we'll send 2 billion this week, you remember. Mr. Speaker, the executive is not interested in CDF, I know. Don't be cheated. I want to tell my colleagues from the other side, from Kenya Kwanza, don't be cheated. The executive is not in support of CDF. They want members of parliament to be capacitated, members of parliament not to be able to attend to issues that can help their constituents, so that you can go and kneel before them and beg them, and then you raise up your hand like you're talking to Jesus. Mr. Speaker, we know them. We have been here long. And then you wait for the president to come on Sundays, or the deputy president, you start saying, oh, Your Excellency, my school is dilapidated. Oh, my Excellency, our children have not gone. Then he starts giving you 100, 200,000. Then he tells you, oh, mubaki vile vile mulikuwa, Mungu atawaangalia siku ingine. Asanteni sana. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. With those few remarks, I contribute.
Very well. Honorable Lilian Gogo, Rangwe. We shall, of course, balance, but for gender purposes, William Gogo, you may proceed. Did I say William? Correction, she is Honorable Lilian Gogo.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker.
Proceed.
Honorable Speaker, I rise to support this motion that establishes the Joint Parliamentary Assembly a joint parliamentary ad hoc committee on a legislative proposal to amend the constitution to entrench specialized funds, and I want to make specific mention, Honorable Speaker, of NGCDF. Honorable Speaker, before I proceed, Honorable Speaker, I probably would want to ask you this, my Honorable Speaker, who is slowly bewitching Kenyans? Honorable Speaker, I have a matter that I'm asking. Who is bewitching Kenyans? Who is slowly bewitching Kenyans to the extent, Honorable Speaker, that we want to put the poor Kenyans and relegate the children of the poor to the back, to the extent that they cannot go to decent schools, to the extent that they cannot have bursary to go to school? Who is bewitching Kenyans, Honorable Speaker? What kind of a nation are we going to have where the children of the poor cannot go to school? And which is this NGO that does not want the children of poor Kenyans to go to school, Honorable Speaker? And may I ask, Honorable Speaker, if you know, Honorable Speaker, the pin of the house of the presiding magistrate or judge, so that I can take 14 school buses of poor students from Rangwe, and then I go and empty it on, empty these children in the house of this particular magistrate or judge, so that they can take these poor children to school. When they have to make certain ruling, do they have empathy? Do they have compassion? Must we belabor on the issue of NGCDF, Honorable Speaker? Do we have to beg on behalf of poor Kenyans, whose poor parents still go ahead and pay taxes, Honorable Speaker? And as far as this matter is concerned, I would urge the committee to move with speed, ban the midnight oil, Honorable Speaker, and bring back a report to this House, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this is a matter of national concern. And my constituents from Rangwe constituency keep calling me, and they are saying, Mheshimiwa tafadhali, please don't remove NGCDF. This is a fund that is known to Kenyans. Even the poorest of the poor, Honorable Speaker, is aware that the only thing that they can lay their hands on, the only development that they see at the ground, what makes their classrooms, what pays bursary for the children of the poor, is the National Government Constituency Development Fund. And it has nothing to do with the MPs. Honorable Speaker, a process has been started. We have a committee in place. But we also need, through your chair, we need a kamukunji of members and the people who are posing this matter. We need a kamukunji, Honorable Speaker. When it comes to matters CDF, Honorable Speaker, we need an equalizer in education. A poor daughter of a poor maid, I could not have stepped in this house, Honorable Speaker, if it were not for the grace of God, Honorable Speaker. And if it were not for education, I would not be speaking in clear English, Honorable Speaker. Why do we want to deny the children of the next generation education? And that notwithstanding, Honorable Speaker, I just hear it is not confirmed. I don't know how true it is, Honorable Speaker, that someone is saying that they are intending to increase school fees in January. Between November and January, where are parents going to get money of that increased school fees, Honorable Speaker? On another note, you hear that the government is not going to fund public universities. On another note, you hear, Honorable Speaker, that NGCDF is unconstitutional. We are going to go as members of National Assembly, people with delegated sovereign authority of the great people of Kenya, to work on this matter, NGCDF, until it's going to be entrenched in law. It is going to be entrenched in our constitution, Honorable Speaker, so that we don't have vagabonds moving around denying the children of poor Kenyans, children of people, mothers, single mothers, children, orphans who are abandoned. If it is not for CDF, Honorable Chair, where children, orphans get full bursary, running up to about 53,000. Full bursary so that they can go to school, Honorable Speaker. This is a matter that touches on every legislator on this House. And it is also proposing to entrench other funds. These are funds that are not going to individual pockets, Honorable Speaker. These are funds that are going to the lowest. Ngegu Beach, we have done we are doing a beautiful police station. We have done a beautiful police station in Diru in Kagan Ward. And we are doing the NGCDF in Rangwe constituency, Honorable Speaker, is making a sub-county headquarters that is even going to have an Uduma center that is going to bring services closer to the people. These people who are against the CDF, why do they want to take us back to the Harambe system to build our schools so that we can go to our knees and beg the executive, Honorable Speaker, to come and build our schools? This particular fund, Honorable Speaker, goes across the constituency, all the 290 of them. When development is happening in Rangwe, it is happening in Wajir, it is happening at the coast. This is a fund that is not discriminative, Honorable Speaker. I am going to say, for purposes of records, Honorable Speaker, that the more we are going to suppress the poor of this country, the more we are going to be cast as a nation. And a time is going to come, Honorable Speaker, when we will go back to God and cry for punishing his poor. And God is a God of the poor. When we continue sitting in the comfort of our beautiful seats in the courts, and we don't even go to our rural homes and see what CDF has done, I am telling these people who are making rulings in the name of the judiciary, go home and see what CDF has done. And when you come back to make your own rulings, honorable members of the judiciary, I think you are going to make different rulings, rulings that are going to be compassionate to our poor. Right now, everybody is following this matter across the country. They want to know what is the fate of CDF, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I started by asking you to tell me kindly, I know in your networks you know where this particular honorable judge lives or magistrate. Kindly give me their PIN. And I'm going to take very many, 14 buses. We have bought school buses, 14 of them in 5 years, using NGCDF. I am going to fill my students of the poor people, take to his home or her home, so that they don't make that grave mistake again on suppressing the poor through the court. Honorable Speaker, Bado, it is my time. When it comes to matters NGCDF, Honorable Speaker, members have said time and again, members have nothing to do with NGCDF. What we want to say, as I finish, let the committee move with speed, give us back a report, and before we go on recess, Honorable Speaker, we need to still discuss this matter further in a Kamukunji. But when it comes to CDF, let them leave the children of the poor alone. I thank you.
Well, very well. Every member has 10 minutes, and if a member has content, we have no otherwise but to allow the member to proceed until when the 10 minutes are over. So next to speak on this motion is Honorable Moses Kirima of Imenti Central. Moses Kirima. Imenti Central is in the house. In the absence of Moses Kirima, then we have Robert Kokose and Debes. Daktari, proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to contribute to the motion as amended. Honorable Speaker, this constitutional amendment brings life, it brings hope, and it sets the stage for saving of educational, academic advancement for the children from the poorest communities, from the poorest parents within our constituencies. Honorable Speaker, we've had cases of COVID. When COVID came in, unfortunately, it disrupted the educational cycle. And when it disrupted the educational cycle, it also interfered with our cycle on how we were dispersing the bursaries. And because of that, when now we are recovering from COVID, then we have our judicial system, our courts, creating another roadblock for the education of the poor children in this country who have been benefiting basically from bursaries. When you look at the criteria for the award of bursaries, it is to the poorest children, the orphan, single parent, and from the very poor backgrounds. In my constituency of Endebess, I've said I decided that when you have needy children scoring 360 marks, 350 marks and above, then we should be able to provide them full bursary to cover their education so that it can be one motivation, and many of these children from very poor families perform and excel well. But unfortunately, with the disruption from COVID and now with the disruption by the judicial system, by our courts, by our judges, giving a very unfavorable ruling on as far as CDF is concerned. CDF is not a default fund. It is a decentralized fund. It is a decentralized fund of the national government. And it is not, the member of parliament has no direct role in CDF. We only provide oversight. And when you provide oversight, I expected that these judges are able to read the law and understand. But because of their activism, they end up hurting other people. And they're hurting many children of this country. It is quite unfair, and I'm hoping that the committee will be able to sit down, and as the Constitution provides that within 90 days. Within 90 days means even in a month's time, that is within the 90 days. They work with the speed, make sure that when we come back in February, when we resume from recess, we are able to process this constitutional amendment. We are able to mobilize ourselves, pass it, so that we can entrench National Constituency Development Fund in our Constitution. Make sure that we do it right, that we are able to protect this fund, because as it stands now, the fund is in dilemma. But I believe that it cannot, what do we do in the meantime? Because this bill is going to take long to be able to be worked on. What do we do in the meantime? I'm asking the chair of the departmental committee on CDF that he calls the CS Treasury, calls the Attorney General. We sit here. We still have undispersed funds. Let those funds be dispersed. This House has passed the committee on CDF. It is going to be cassetted. What is the committee going to do for the meantime? Let's disperse the funds. The CS Treasury should be able to disperse the funds to the board. The board should be able to disperse the funds to the constituency. and the constituency, we should be able to prepare that when children are opening in January, they are able to go to school. Even these ones who are sitting for their KCPE, KCSE, joining to the university, KCPE, sitting to do going to join Form 1. We have even the grade 6 who are going to junior high school. Where are the classrooms if we can't be able to build with this? The president of this country has publicly and in this house acknowledged that he supports the CDF, which is a good thing. And I think the rest of the executive should support the president to make sure that CDF is actualized and is made to be able to deliver on the services, especially bursary, construction of classrooms, construction of the offices of the chiefs and assistant chiefs. I saw the other day our CS for Interior, Professor Kithure Kindiki, visiting Kilifi and saying that we need to put money to put offices for the assistant chiefs, offices for the chiefs, and make sure that everything, the provincial administration are working in a good environment. That can only be actualized through CDF. So, Honorable Speaker, to me, I think we need to have action plan that before we break for our recess, we need to have a kamkunji in this house, through you, the Speaker, that the CS and the Attorney General, who happens to have been the former Speaker of this house, should be able to move with speed, come here to this house, let's have the CDF actualized, let's have it running as we do the amendment. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to give others also time to be able to contribute. I support.
Honorable Member Joshua Mwalio, Masinga constituency.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving this chance to speak on the NGCDF. Having been a member of the NGCDF for 5 years in last term, and even this time I have been placed in the same committee, I am conversant on the CDF matters. And I think this is a great moment that we are debating about the release of the CDF and also the Anto committee that has been able to be passed in this house to be able to work on entrenching the NGCDF in the Constitution. You remember that last year we had the same exercise of putting 5% in the NGCDF so that it can be the percentage that is allocated from 2.5%. And the committee of NGCDF was able to move around all the 47 counties for 30 days. So even this Anto committee can be able to move and collect the views of the public within that stipulated time so that we can be able to entrench this in the Constitution. We move on. Having said that, it is very important for the judges to know that there are poor students, poor pupils, poor total orphans that are only sponsored by CDF, and they cannot be able to go to school unless the check comes from the office of the fund manager for them to attend school. It has been a very hard term, this third term, that we have not been able to dish out the checks for NGCDF for the students to be able to learn. Majority of the students are at home as we are speaking, because in some parts of this country, there is famine, there is no food. So are you going to look for school fees or you are going to feed the children? So many of the parents have opted for the children to stay at home rather than them selling their cows for paying the school fees, but rather for them to buy food for the family. So it is a very sad affair that we have famine and we have no school fees. So what I would urge this House is to be united together. The House should be in oneness as we call for the Kamukunji, for the CS Treasury and the AG to come and be able to convince them that we need a percentage, because if the students who are not able to go to school this third term, it means they are going to repeat the class they were going next year because they did not do the exam. So we don't want to punish our children. Even a notice is normally given, even if you are going to be given a bad notice, plus to be given a bad notice, you need a notice. Even if it is a notice of 5 years, we should have been given by the courts that after this term, we shall stop the NGCDF, rather than just putting the brakes. All the students that were fully sponsored by NGCDF, they stay home. All the university students that are sponsored by NCDF, they stay home. So I would like to urge this honorable House to unite and be able to ask, even if it's for the first quarter of the NGCDF, to be released to every constituency so that we can deal with the matter that is pressing us of school fees and taking the students even to Form 1, others to the university, others to the next classes. So I think everybody will come to his own senses that surely the thing that this country is going through is not the best, because we are not doing justice to our students, to our children, wherever they are, because they are used to the members of this House trying to give them the bursaries in their schools. Number two, we will have a lot of waste if NGCDF is not released, because there are so many projects that we are going on. There will be no value for money because there will be stored projects all over this country. So the best thing is for the NGCDF to be released so that we complete all these projects and we continue the way we have been continuing. If I give an example, my constituency, the only project is seen in that constituency is the money that comes from the NGCDF. Whatever comes from the county government is actually cannot be seen. For the last 5 years, only 5 boreholes were done in my constituency, which is very negligible compared to whatever was able to be done by NGCDF. So my argument will be, let us be released, the NGCDF, so that life can be smooth the way it has been for our students, for our projects, and for everybody that depends on NGCDF funds. For those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support the ad hoc committee.
Very well. Honorable Florence Matia. Next. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, I want to say I want to support this motion on the floor on matters NGCDF. I want to speak and echo my colleagues who have spoken before me that the petitioner should have taken time and understand the importance and the benefits of CDF. As I speak, Mr. Speaker, I come from a very humble background, and those days we used to be helped and supported by organizations like Children Fund, that is CCF, USAID, to go to school. And I was privileged to have schooled in a boarding school at an early stage of my life. And due to that, I was able to get a better education, and that is why I am here today. What CDF is trying to do is to bridge the gap that was there and gives opportunity to poor children from poor backgrounds. Also, CDF has also complemented a lot of development, right from the national level and the county level. As one of the members have said, Honorable, because I've said these are decentralized funds. And the best people, and history have proven right that politicians, as much as they are elected, are good managers because they understand and they get in contact to the people day in, day out. And so CDF have proven that with a good management by members of parliament, under the decentralized funds and regulation of government, it has been able to take care and cater for many projects and help many people, especially children going to school, to be able to live their lives like any other Kenyans, or Kenyans of better status. I want to also add and say that I have seen in the recent times how CDF have done. It has built police stations. It has bridged the gap or curbed the openings in the society that the national government are not being able to do it in time. Because when a member of parliament interacts with the people, he can easily relate to the problems that people go through day in, day out. And that way, even the orphans or children who are going to school and are not able, are able to be picked. Widows have been beneficiaries through the CDF in terms of bursaries. We also have the NGCF, NGAF. This is also some of the funds that have also been contentious of late. And we want to ask our counterparts in the judiciary that they should also consider that we are all working for Kenyans. As much as I've been elected, but I am giving service to the national and the people of Kenya in all regards. And that way, when I get an opportunity like this, I want to ask the petitioner who did this to relook again and go and do his or her due diligence and understand that CDF is not fighting anyone. In fact, it is entrenching the services more better to the people of Kenya. Suffice that, Mr. Speaker, there are also problems. Like I come from Baringo where there's a lot of banditry. And many times when we discuss about all these things, we are told there are children who are not going to school in those areas of specifically Tiati. And I want to say there are other areas that CDF is not utilized well. And this one, probably going forward, as a member of parliament, Baringo County, I have noted with a lot of concerns that there are areas in my county that don't utilize CDF because those are places you don't see schools that have been built, probably. You don't also see those police stations. You don't see the effect because at the end of the day, as much as many other members, because the other day, Honorable Ndindi Nyoro took members of parliament to his constituency to showcase what CDF has done. I want to say I have a problem in that part of my county that CDF is not effective enough because we have stories that CDF is doing other things like, supporting banditry, probably, maybe buying guns, or because it has been in the records, or encouraging people by not developing the place. And I am going to, as much as I'm supporting CDF, there are things we need to understand that some leaders don't utilize CDF the way it's supposed to be done.
Yes, Honorable Millie, what's your point of order? Honorable Millie, what's your point of order? Give Honorable Millie the microphone.
Oh,
please.
thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, even though I don't wish to interrupt my very good friend, Honorable Florence, but is she in order to mislead this House that CDF is used to buy guns and things like that? When indeed, because when you actually say you are supporting CDF and furthering fallacies about CDF, then you're actually setting up Kenyans against CDF. CDF has a very clear structure and a clear system that nobody can buy guns with CDF. So is she in order to mislead this House? And I would want to encourage that maybe one of the things, I wish I could also have sought for a point of information, then I would be able to inform her clearly how CDF works. But perhaps another member could do that. But you are really out of order, misleading the country about what CDF can do or not do.
Thank you. Order, Honorable Florence. Really, this is a house of records, and it's very important that when you pronounce yourself on certain matters, especially weighty as they are, you really must be able to substantiate. So therefore, proceed, but really stick on issues that you are able to substantiate.
Standing guided, Mr. Speaker. But as I said the utilization in other areas. That one I stand guided. And going forward, Mr. Speaker, I want to say for sure CDF has done its bit. I have seen projects, but I would also encourage that even as we fight for CDF to come back, and it's going to come, and GAF too, that we are going to be appreciative if the society understands that CDF is actually important like any other part of government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Next is the Honorable Adan Haji, Mandera West. Is Adan Haji in the house? Adan Haji. Okay, in the absence of Adan Haji, next is Honorable Joanna Ngeno. Proceed, Joanna Ngeno.
Thank you, Speaker. I really don't want to delve so much on this particular topic, Mr. Speaker, because many of us have conversed it on several occasions. And especially at a time when the kitty has been halted by the courts. The courts who, I believe, never properly or never understood the major intention of the activists who went to court. Mr. Speaker, sometimes you wonder why Kenyan people question matters which are, or which goes to the main artery of the poor population, and leave matters that are actually destroying the country completely. There has been a lot of corruption in this country in the previous years, corruption that have eaten into the core of this country. But no one is going to court about it. There has been so many people in this country who have stolen billions and trillions of money, Mr. Speaker, and they are walking in the streets scot-free. And no one is actually looking at how we can arrest those people, make them pay the money they have eaten from this country, Mr. Speaker. There has been people in this country, Mr. Speaker, who have made it a responsibility to waste whatever is in any government ministry, Mr. Speaker, and they are not even going to court about it. Why are they questioning a small amount of money that has been allocated to the poorest of the poor in the society? Mr. Speaker, I remember There were so many schools in this country, Mr. Speaker, which were mad schools, which were actually, you know, had mad walls. There are so many students in our country, Mr. Speaker, especially the countryside, who studied inside dilapidated classrooms. I'm one of those, Mr. Speaker, who, when I was young, I studied in a classroom where I think every other week I had not less than 10 jiggers on my fingers, Mr. Speaker. Today it is history because of the introduction of CDF. Mr. Speaker, I don't know why some people have never understood the reason why CDF was introduced in this country. Mr. Speaker, there were days in this country where parents used to sell land to educate their children. So many people lost land. So many people lost their cows because they had to sell to educate their children. There were days, Mr. Speaker, when children used to defer their university classes because they could not manage to pay the fees. There were days, Mr. Speaker, in this country where people died on their way to hospitals because there were no roads. People die on the roadsides because the road is not there. Maybe it is a very rainy season. People are being carried by gunias to the hospitals. There were days, Mr. Speaker, when we used to have children named Kipto, Kibor. Why, Mr. Speaker? Because they were born on the roadsides. Because the hospitals were not there. Because the roads were not good. Mr. Speaker, this is history. It is no longer there. I don't understand, Mr. Speaker, why we are fighting over something which is going towards assisting the people of this country. Why is our country and many African countries are backward? It's because people do concentrate on matters that do not matter, that are not important to the development of the society. Instead of vigilating on billions of money which is being spent anyhow, carelessly, people are vigilating on money that is helping the poor in this country. Instead of arresting big corrupt individuals, we are fighting over small allocations to the poor. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to say much. I just want to say it is the responsibility of this House so that we will not also be whining day and night. Article 95, Article 94, Mr. Speaker, and Article 96 give this House the powers to legislate, to make any law in this country, Mr. Speaker. And I think it is now our responsibility to ensure that we amend the Constitution, entrench the CDF and GCDF in the Constitution, so that even the generations, it may not even be for the current generation, Mr. Speaker, but we also need to be, to ensure that the next generations benefit from the amendment of this Constitution. Mr. Speaker, law was created to help man, not the other way around. Law was not created, man was not created to help laws. Laws were created to help men and women. Mr. Speaker, that is why we are in this House. We are in this House to amend the law. That law was meant to help us. And if there are some sections in that particular Constitution which are not helpful to the humanity, Mr. Speaker, it is our responsibility to amend it. And I'm urging members, let us stop whining. Let us put our efforts on the amendment of this particular Constitution. The committee, the ad hoc committee, which has been picked, Mr. Speaker, I'm only urging them, just do your responsibilities, even in 30 days, but ensure you go to every village, every corner in this country. Ask the people, what do they want with this allocation? If they want it removed, then bring it here. We will remove it. If they want it entrenched in the Constitution, bring it here. We will entrench it in the Constitution. And whoever wants to court, whoever wants to go to court, they can go to court, any court in this country. But we must entrench CDF in the Constitution, just like we entrench the devolution in the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, I wish to support, and I'm asking the members who are going to do the public participation, ensure that you also follow the law. Just like what the Speaker was ruling on the other minute, that we must follow the law in the composition of that ad hoc committee, we also must follow the law in the public participation and collecting views from Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, I support and I wish to support. Thank you.
Honorable Mili Odhiambo Mabona, the MP for Suba North, Senior Counsel. The requests we have here are over 22, and we have barely 55 minutes to go. So if you can put in your point and save time for colleagues, it would be even better so that we are all at.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll try and be brief so that other members can also get an opportunity. Mr. Speaker, while we are discussing here, I've noticed one of my friends on Facebook called Mtumishi Koroso is asking why the discussion on NGCDF by members of parliament is very emotive. In fact, he has made a reference to Lillian and saying Honorable Lillian Gogo, why she's very emotive. And I want to say that the reason why this is emotive is because we deal directly with members of the public, and like him, he deals with people on Facebook, but we deal directly with members of the public. Mr. Speaker, I can actually cite a case in my own constituency where people used to ask me to contribute to funerals, and I'd give very little, sometimes at most 500, but usually only 3,000 shillings. And at one point, actually, somebody asked somebody, why should I be giving such little money that will not help? But then I actually underwent a transformative situation that made me realize that that little money to me means the whole world to somebody. Mr. Speaker, I was actually told to visit a home where a woman had died the night before in Rusinga Island on Gumba Hills. And when I went there, I found that the body had been there for a day. It was covered by a net that was donated by UNICEF because they were not able to provide any preservative. They were not able to afford a coffin even of 3,000 shillings. Mr. Speaker, they were not able to take this body to the morgue. The woman had 3 children, and these are the only people who are surviving even in the larger family. She had 3 children. The eldest was 14 years old. Mr. Speaker, I think a lot of us do not understand the kind of situations that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. We are dealing with the desperately poor people who cannot raise 3,000 shillings to bury. People who cannot raise 500 shillings to buy unga. And you want to, argue with us on Facebook. Sometimes these posh Kenyans on Facebook, sometimes when they find me in a good mood, I abuse them. When I'm in a bad mood, I block them. Because they need to go back to the ground and discover what Kenya is all about. Because CDF has helped so many people and continues to help. Mr. Speaker, the reason why I even interrupted my good friend Honorable Florence when she was speaking is that the challenge we have in relation to CDF is a lot of misinformation. A lot of people think that as a member of parliament, you just go to your constituency and say, give me 1 million there for CDF. Nobody is going to give you any money. CDF has a board, which is in Nairobi. That board is the one that actually then sets up a committee, which is passed in parliament, and then they set up and hire people that then work for CDF. Maybe members may actually, the way we do even have influence over appointment of PSS and other people, we may put in a word, and that is normal in life. But on the whole, CDF is one of the best structured and best managed funds in the whole country. And I want to encourage the organization called TISA, that sometimes those of us who come from civil society, we are very genuinely accused of being elitist, because sometimes we are. I come from a civil society background, and we need to understand that sometimes we are elitist. That's why people don't take us seriously. Go back home and understand how CDF is transforming lives. Right now, because the money for CDF has delayed, there are so many people in our own constituencies that have dropped out of universities that have not gone. There are some that we are forced right now to sponsor. There is a boy that I've sponsored from a place called Usao who deferred his university degree, medical degree, last term, last season. Again, he's deferring this time. I had to get money from my own pocket. How many people can members of parliament sponsor from their own pockets? So, Mr. Speaker, I reach a point where I had to say, I can't do anymore. But CDF does that to individuals that are suffering like that. As members of parliament, we can give recommendations when you see situations like that. Mr. Speaker, the other thing that I would want to say is when this committee is finally constituted, what I would want to encourage them to look at very carefully is the principle of separation of powers and how they are going to deal with it in the amendment. Because if we do not look at it carefully, the way we are looking at the issue of separation of powers, then the issue of the basic structure concept, which I so dislike, might just rear its ugly head again. So I would want to encourage members who, once this passes, that they need to look at it and also look at it vis-a-vis the principles and values that are contained in Chapter 10 of our Constitution, that talks about equity, that talks about non-discrimination, that talks about fairness. Where is the fairness when poor people are suffering, and then we want to argue? I want to thank Honorable Lillian that she was very emotive and she was saying, who has cursed Kenyans? It is not Kenyans. I want to ask, who is cursing Africans? When something good finally happens in Africa, then us in Kenya, we want to kill it. Everywhere I go, in every country, I used to be a member of Pan-African Parliament. I interact with several members from other African countries. People want to know how we are managing CDF. Zambia is doing very well with it, and perhaps only Kenya. And everybody else wants to see, because it's transforming lives. Mr. Speaker, I almost called names, but let me withdraw. Let it go inside. But Mr. Speaker, you have people who do not understand what's going on. And they're asking you, why should you have CDF? Mr. Speaker, what used to happen is once that CDF, when we didn't have CDF, what used to happen is that honorable members of parliament would be queuing at the executive, asking for money. Now I don't have to go and queue anywhere to ask for money. Then it gives us the power and authority to be able to deal as honorable members. Even as opposition, I can deal without going to line and queue anywhere. It gives me my independence. And Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude and even encourage my good friend Alice. I know she was out last time, so she doesn't know. I'm actually exercising my own gratitude, or not gratitude, my fairness, to cede my time, because it is not by law. So I'm actually rushing. If you notice, I'm actually rushing. So I'm actually ceding my time so that you can also have time. But in concluding, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that as members, it doesn't matter whether you are in UDA, whether you are in ODM. If you don't have CDF, you are going home early in the morning, because your people will have no confidence in you, whether we are giving it out or not. Let us have a kamkunji before we go, and we want to tell the executive, release the money for CDF, otherwise you'll deal with the wrath of the members of this house. Let the president learn what Honorable Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta did not learn last time. The way he dealt with the members of parliament cost him a lot. So we want to tell this president, if he's joking, he will deal with our wrath across the board. With those few remarks, I want to support and urge these members not to spare anything or anyone. Thank you.
Is the chair of the National Assembly Select Committee on CDF in the House? Contribute and when
Mike,
you do
Mike.
that.
We can't hear you, Chair.
Yeah, I was asking whether the chair of the National Assembly Select Committee, so there is a problem. The speaker's mic is not working. I'm now audible. Yes, so as you contribute, Honorable Musa Sirma, also explain to the nation why CDF has not been disbursed.
Replying because I'll be replying.
Yeah, so when you reply, tell the House why CDF has not been disbursed.
Yes.
Because so far as I'm aware, that there is no order or anything stopping disbursement of CDF. Yeah, if we are a serious house, we should not just be crying as if we don't have to, nothing to do. Honorable Beatrice Elachi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support, but more importantly, to thank the leadership, both the majority leader and the minority, for ensuring now that this committee is indeed incomplete and within our guidelines of our standing orders. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, I just want to pick on so that I contribute very fast and say that, as you say, Mr. Speaker, I think the House should first of all proceed to continue to do what they need to do and ensure disbursement of CDF is done. Because the ruling of the Supreme Court was a ruling that was dealt with the CDF Act of 2013. And therefore, the President of the Supreme Court assumes that what she dealt with was that. Indeed, she has no idea about 2015, because nobody has ever gone about even the amendments, further amendments of 2022. And so we will be even wrong ourselves. Maybe we are just putting ourselves into a crisis where she was never in that crisis. And therefore, as we constitute this committee, because our first stop must be in her office, so that she explains and we are able to understand, I think CDF should continue. Because what she dealt with was 2013. Mr. Speaker, I have been in schools today. I will tell you, our children, when you look at those who are going to do exams, I have one school, 800 candidates. Standard 8, 420. Year 6, 400, I don't know, and 2. And in total, we are talking of 20,000 in one constituency. Yet we have other kids, Mr. Speaker, who are now at home. Some were supposed to be doing Form 4. They were under CDF bursary. They've been sent home because there's no money. Yet we are saying as a country, education is the key and the future and everything. We are lying to our children. We are lying to the country. Then you find the former CS of education who decided to do desks. Even the desks were never enough, Mr. Speaker. I think each school was getting 50. And CDF, if CDF was to do for you desks, every school, today I contributed 200 for 6 schools. But if it was CDF, all the schools would have gotten. And you look at the way we are dealing with this matter, and yet some children are going to now, you wait and see they have closed school. You wait and see in the streets, Mr. Speaker. We will be crying for our children. Yet we have decided completely, CDF used to come up with programs to at least have sports. We would be having sports for our children when they close school. For 2 months, we have nothing to give these children, and therefore the children in the urban towns will be in town, even them. They will be roaming in the roads of Nairobi all over because they don't have any place to go and do indoor or even football or even any other games that can keep them busy in the next 2 months. Mr. Speaker, I think when we are going to collect views, we must take a petition to the judiciary. The judiciary to tell them, these are our children. Tell us what you want to do with Kenya. You want to kill Kenya? And then where are you going to get the future judges, future lawyers? I mean, it's very unfair. When you look at the national government, they have no program even for a classroom, and yet we are about to transit to year 6, going to junior high school, and to others going to another. I think, Mr. Speaker, so that I finalize, so that others contribute, I think it is very unfair to see that you have a transition of a a whole education system transiting into something that we don't know. How are we going to ensure these children indeed are in junior high school? They have classrooms. Their parents are wondering, I have a child in standard 8, another one in standard 6. Where am I headed with them? Will they afford? And therefore, when you look at the school fees, and this is the final, the uniform. Today, uniform in Kenya, if you are supporting one child, you are told by the school, you either find it in the school, and if the school doesn't have, they tell you where the shop is. I think the ministry and the minister must ensure he puts a cap. You cannot buy a uniform 23,000 uniform. No shoes, no nothing, just uniform, no beddings. Mr. Speaker, I beg to say this House must be very serious, and we must put a cap also on uniforms, and we must open up that parents can go to Kenya School of Uniform to also get uniform. I beg to support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this discussion. Mr. Speaker, it's very quite unfortunate that this afternoon we are spending all this time debating about only 2.5% of the ordinary revenue of the government of Kenya. 97.5%, Mr. Speaker, is going to do other projects and do other things in this republic. But this money, only 2.5% of the ordinary revenue, is what Kenyans are able to see trickle down, quote unquote, if I use that word, to every household in this republic. Honorable members here have talked about success stories of bursaries. Mr. Speaker, I am here courtesy of CDF bursary. Because when I did my KCPE in 2001 and qualified to go to secondary school, being a child of a single mother, there was no money to take me to school. And it was then the Member of Parliament for Molo, one Mukiri Masharia, that my grandfather, may his soul rest in peace, approached him and asked him to support me. And the 4 years I went to Kieni Mixed Day Secondary School, I was supported through Molo Constituency Development Fund. And that's how I was able to complete my secondary school, join Kenyatta University, and that's why I am here today as a second-term Member of Parliament, as a chairperson Departmental Committee of Finance and National Planning. That would never have happened if there was no CDF. I probably would just be looking after goats and sheep in my remote village of Mukinyai in Molo. Mr. Speaker, this is so personal to me that in 2017, when I decided to vie to be a Member of Parliament for Molo, I found myself vying against the Honorable Mukiri Masharia, who educated me through high school and university. And it was very tricky for me. And I remember one time we met at a function. The only words I would say is, you took me to school and told me I'm the leaders of tomorrow, but tomorrow has now come. And I think that is how I was able to convince that multitude to vote for that 28-year-old man and not that experienced one. And even to this date, he's somebody I talk to, he's someone I really respect, and he has been a great mentor to me in my life. So, Mr. Speaker, the success of CDF has many of us as examples, myself included. And how unfair would it be if we don't extend this olive branch to the millions of poor Kenyans in this country, Mr. Speaker? A lot has been advanced about CDF and the control of members of Parliament. But, Mr. Speaker, let me inform those uninformed judicial officers that we have a fund that is run through KERA, the 22% and the 10%. And the only role of a Member of Parliament is forwarding or recommending members of the Constituency Roads Committee. And then the Constituency Roads Committee just drew up a program of how the roads are going to be done in the constituency. And this, Honorable Speaker, can be seen as what has been an equalizer in doing our constituency roads. So if you're saying then that 22%, the 10% Kerala roads can do our roads in the constituency, and you claim then a Member of Parliament is not involved, and you're saying that this one is unconstitutional because there is involvement of a Member of Parliament, aren't you double speaking? So, Mr. Speaker, I really urge these judicial officers. You might be children of rich men and women in this country. You might have gone to privileged institutions. Most of you pride yourself in calling yourself learned friends because you went to the Massachusetts and the Oxfords of this world. Many poor Kenyans would never afford or imagine going to those schools. They school in those dilapidated classrooms, primary schools and secondary schools. And if they're not given CDF, those schools, those schools will never have the correct infrastructure to produce the next lawyers or judicial officers in this country, Mr. Speaker. We are talking about the importance of the fund to the constituents. But let me introduce a new concept, the importance of that fund to the National Constituency Development Fund Board. Because we have a whole board in this country with an infrastructure, with a total of 391 employees that are directly employed by the board. We have an average of 6 employees employed in each of the 290 constituencies, which is an additional 1,740 Kenyans. So you add to the 391 of the board, you have 2,111 Kenyans that are going to lose their jobs if this action by this court is implemented. Mr. Speaker, just the employees at the board contribute 19,827,376 shillings as payee, which amounts to 234 million shillings, 928,310 million shillings per year in terms of pay, Mr. Speaker. Yes. Need I remind you I'm a CPA, Honorable Zachary Thuku. So this means that if this decision is carried forward, we are going to render 2,111 Kenyans jobless, and from our coffers, we are going to lose 19 million per month, which accumulates to 237 million shillings per year, Mr. Speaker. Because I want to give an opportunity to others to contribute. My last point. The reason why our elections are extremely competitive and end up being very divisive is because there is a strong belief that you need to be part of government to get development in your constituencies and your counties. And this is true. Because, Mr. Speaker, we have a total of 160,000, for example, kilometers of roads in this country. And even if the government would be so gracious as to do 1,000 kilometers per year, in 5 years, you only do 5,000 kilometers. So it will take another 20 years to do only the 160,000 kilometers of road. That is why, Mr. Speaker, you see, when the president or the deputy president visits our constituencies, you are quick to tell them which road can be done, because it is factually not possible to have any criteria to ensure that you have that development skewed proportionately across the country. So, Mr. Speaker, if not for anything else, the Honorable Kuria Kimani is just here at the floor of this House, courtesy of CDF. And I'll pray and hope that we could provide this chance to millions of other Kenyans. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable John Waluke is back to the House. Give him a chance to talk.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm back. I've been away for a very long time, and I want to speak about CDF, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, CDF is the most cost-effective fund, Mr. Speaker. It has changed lives from the poor children, the poor families, Mr. Speaker, because some could not afford to take their children to school, even as we speak. We are having a problem of hunger, even in Turkana. But CDF, Mr. Speaker, was managing to take their kids to school, even with those problems. Mr. Speaker, as I speak here, as a member of Parliament for Sirisia constituency, Mr. Speaker, I caught my constituency with 91 primary schools. And almost all of them, Mr. Speaker, were mud wall, Mr. Speaker. And we used to smear. The children used to carry some cows' feces to smear the classrooms, Mr. Speaker. But now we have managed, Mr. Speaker, I have managed to almost, with the CDF committee, to bring up almost 68 schools afresh. permanent, courtesy of CDF, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, people who are instigating to remove CDF, Mr. Speaker, sometimes you think that they are not normal. Because it is seen. Today, Mr. Speaker, I was so proud on this road, the Uhuru Highway, where I saw the passes, Mr. Speaker, about 28 passes, they were just passing. And I even told my podcasts and my drivers that, look at those passes. And there are people outside there who are saying that CDF should be removed, Mr. Speaker. 8 of them, Mr. Speaker, are fully funded by CDF. And I was very proud as a member of parliament. Mr. Speaker, the poor children from poor families, where we come from, Mr. Speaker, have really benefited because some of them, Mr. Speaker, have been given full bursary. Like in my constituency, Mr. Speaker, every year I sponsor full bursary for 61 students, bright students from poor families, to give them full scholarship. And this is, Mr. Speaker, without CDF, energy CDF, Mr. Speaker, those children could not make it to go to even high schools or universities, but some of them, Mr. Speaker, or many of them have gone through to the universities, courtesy of CDF. Every time, Mr. Speaker, we have been having problems as a house, as a country. We blame ourselves as members of parliament, Mr. Speaker, because we are the lawmakers. And, Mr. Speaker, where we have failed, because 3 terms I've been in this house, Mr. Speaker, this problem of CDF has been occurring every term. That there's a problem of CDF, that they have removed the CDF, and we are the lawmakers, Mr. Speaker. This is now the time, and let it be the last time, Mr. Speaker, for us as a house to make sure that we amend the laws. We change and amend the laws in the Constitution that allow CDF money to be used, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this money is taxpayers' money. And those poor women in the rural, Mr. Speaker, and poor men are the taxpayers. So their children are supposed to learn. They are supposed to go to school, Mr. Speaker. And being taxpayer, this money is not, we are there just to manage. Even Treasury manages this money for these people, these poor women, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, it has taken long because many children have come back home. They have not gone to school due to lack of school fees, because CDF is not there, because bursary is not there. But with the committee that has been constituted today, Mr. Speaker, it needs to hurry up. I know they are going to take long going around the whole country, Mr. Speaker, getting public participation. But, Mr. Speaker, when they come back, Treasury should release billions of money because they have been saving money on their account for CDF, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, there will be no complaint for them to say that the court stopped CDF bursary or CDF. Mr. Speaker, this is their time almost from last year, from the time we went to elections up to date. Mr. Speaker, they have got enough money and enough time to make sure that the money that should be released with immediate effect, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, many countries have come to this country, Mr. Speaker, to our country to learn how we use CDF. How can CDF be used? Because they hear that Kenya have a fund called CDF. Lastly, before we went to elections, I saw Uganda were here, members of parliament from Uganda to come and to learn, to see how CDF is utilized. So we are proud, Mr. Speaker, because maybe in Africa, it is Kenya that started this fund of CDF, and other countries are learning from us. So we need to continue, not that they come to learn from us here, and then we remove ours. We cannot blame the courts, the judiciary, Mr. Speaker, because these cases were taken to them. The NGOs that did this, I think God will punish them. Because these poor children at home, they are crying, not going to school. These poor families, the mothers, poor mothers home there, they are crying that their children are home. I saw those people, Mr. Speaker, they were still even arguing that they were going to remove even CDF. They are shameless. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for today. Because of time, let me donate my time to another colleague to contribute. I support.
Thank you very much, Honorable John Waluke. Your wisdom was missed. We wish you well and pray they don't mess up with your liberty again. Honorable John Kawanjiku.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity so that I can contribute to such great, important matters of our republic and the matter that concern the people that we represent. Mr. Speaker, may I take this opportunity to say that, first of all, the NGO that took the matter to court, and also the judges that made that ruling on that particular time, it is actually against, I'm even looking for better words to describe them, because I think they live in an illusional world whereby they don't understand whatever happens to the common mwananchi in our constituency. Mr. Speaker, let me say that because I came to this house through a by-election, and I was able to support 8,000 students within a period of 1 year, to give them bursaries so that they can be able to see the doors of high school, because they were not able to raise the school fees that were demanded by their public secondary school. Mr. Speaker, in the country that we are living, even to raise 100 shillings so that you can be able to support your family with a daily bread, it is becoming an issue in our country today. So this bursary and this NGCDF came in handy. Some of the people who are able to be members of this house, they have been able to be here because of the bursaries that were given by their CDF and through their members of parliament. Mr. Speaker, it will look bad on us if we can only be able to fund our children to go to high school and other public schools, but the children of our poor people, peasants, watu ambao, those people who are not able to raise the school fees, cannot be able to go to school because of a judgment that was made by a judge sitting in Kilimani or Milimani High Court without putting into consideration what those people will go through. We have already received millions of calls by now, people asking us when we are going to disperse our bursary because they have not been able to maintain their children in high school. Mr. Speaker, the things that we have been able to do through NGCDF, even coming up with new high schools in my constituency. For example, as we speak, there is a high school that we are constructing because of the numbers of students who are in public primary school, and we need 100% transition from public primary school to public high school. We have constructed new high schools to give those children opportunity to learn so they can also become better people in our society. Through CDF, we have been able to reduce the number of people or probably people without employment, because some could not have managed to get employment because of lack of education, Mr. Speaker. May I say that we must come together as a house, regardless of which political side you come from, whether in AZIMIO, whether in Kenya Kwanza, and support one agenda and make sure that the CS for Treasury, by now, or probably before we go to recess, he will have released the money for the CDF so that we can be able to plan and make sure that those students and other projects that are ongoing in our constituency have been able to be fully functional. We have been able to support them, and we make sure that we maintain those students in our school, in our public school. Mr. Speaker, let me say that CDF has been a good fund that has been managed very well. We have seen our constituencies that have done exceptionally well by making sure they renovate their public schools, giving the students a better opportunity to learn and better environment so that we can be able to make sure that we have 100% transition from public primary to public secondary school, and then maybe after from public high school, probably to university, and make sure we give them an opportunity to become better people within our society. Mr. Speaker, I therefore stand and support this ad hoc committee, and we demand that through your office, Mr. Speaker, before we go to recess, you make sure that we have a kamukonji, so that you make sure that the CS for finance, the Attorney General, and the members can deliberate on this matter, and at the end of the day, we can be able to unlock whatever is a problem, whatever has been an issue, so that we can, by the time we go back to, by the time we are going for recess, we can also be able to action and support those students who are looking up to us to provide for them bursary and to make sure that they're in public, that they're in school, so that they can support their future and so that they can support their family. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Alice Nganga, MP, Thika Town.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this important matter pertaining to CDF. Madam Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sorry, Mr. Speaker. I came back to this house.
When did you change the gender?
No, sorry. Sorry, Mr. Speaker. My bit is because I'm a madam, I'm assuming, sorry, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you know we were together in the duration of 2013-2017, and I never came back for the 12th Parliament, and I am back here the 13th Parliament. And I want to tell you, Mr. Speaker, I am here courtesy of CDF because of the bursaries that I awarded those students from Thika constituency. Mr. Speaker, right now as we speak, my offices has bulk of forms of bursaries because most of the students never even resumed back to school this term because of lack of school fees. Mr. Speaker, as we speak right now, I built, when I was a member of parliament, a divisional headquarters, police divisional headquarters in a place called Goriba. And the level, that time, the level of insecurity, there was so much insecurity in that area. Right now, among all my wards, that is the only wards, the security matters is not a problem anymore. As we speak right now, Mr. Speaker, I think the people who went to court, that NGO, I think they are Aryans, they don't live in Kenya. Because if they do live in Kenya, they should have experienced what parents are going through. And I think people assume that CDF belongs to member of parliament, like we use this money as we wish. What they don't understand is a board that assign those projects to be undertaken at our constituency levels. And that is where I am saying, Mr. Speaker, that we need to discuss this matter without fearing anybody. Because as we speak right now, every member of parliament, we have our own money. We are employed by our by Parliamentary Service Commission, but we were hired by the members of our constituency. Right now, as we have our salary, but those people who we represent, they have nothing. We know right now that our country is experiencing a hunger. There's no food, leave alone money to take children to school. And if we sit down here lamenting and crying without having a way forward, we are the one who are going to lose. The people who really believed in us, the people who brought us to this house are suffering back at home. And that is why I'm saying we cannot go back home. We are going for a recess. What are we taking back home? What are we going to tell the people who send us to come to this parliament? What are we going to tell them? That there is somebody somewhere seated who doesn't want to release this money. They will not understand because they gave us all the power. Remember, we are representative of the people who elected us, and that is why we are here. Now going back home to tell them there's somebody seated somewhere who went to court so that the money cannot be released, they will not understand. And that's why I'm saying, even, I know we have an ad hoc committee that has been formed today, but moving forward, as the entire, across the house, Kenya Kwanza and AZIMIO, we need to come together. Make sure that this matter, we discuss it. Whoever we need to bring on board, the Attorney General, the Cabinet Secretary, we need to bring them on board, and they explain to us the reason as to why money has not hit the accounts at the CDF level to make sure that programs start running. You know, the parents are going for a long holiday, the Christmas holiday, and they are looking forward in January to taking their children back to school. Now, why are we giving them stress that the children now are at home, they close school, apart from the class 8 and grade 6 and Form 4s who are sitting for their exams. The rest are already at home. What are we going to tell these parents when they are taking this grade 6 to grade 7 and this class 8 to Form 1 and those ones who are in Form 4 when they'll be joining the university, that we tell them there's no money only because the Cabinet Secretary for Finance Treasury has not released the money. They need to release the money, and then we say here at the floor of the House, Kesi Badai. Let us case that case already when the money is already at the constituency level. But we cannot sit here debating, and we are not taking any action to make sure that our CDF money is at the constituency level. And because of those people who don't understand, I need to inform them that as for the projects that we do with CDF, it is the board that come up with those projects, and they fund those projects. We are only patrons to this money. We are only there to assist and to foresee that everything is running smoothly at our constituency level. And we also need to inform them that nowhere at any given time does the member of parliament come into hand or touch these funds. Our work is only to go there, make sure that the bursaries are awarded to those vulnerable children from our constituencies, or we are building police posts and divisional headquarters, or starting a new school like I started Thika Girls Karibaribi, that I started with only 80 students, and as we speak today, we have 1,000 students, and right now as we're speaking, 250 are sitting for the exam, Form 4 exams. That is what CDF does to this country. If you move across from one constituency to another, either you are in central Kenya, or you are in western, or you're in Coast Province, or in northeastern province, if you go there, you will see a mark. And you know, with this CDF, every project that we do, there's a big board there saying that this project was undertaken by CDF. So those people who are seated somewhere, who think they can run to court and deny the Kenyan people the opportunity to be given services by the members of parliament, they are wrong, and we are not going to condone them. We are telling them, waachane na sisi tunataka watoto wasome, sisi tunataka kujenga mashule, sisi tunataka kununua madawati, sisi tunataka kuweka, we want also to make sure that we have dining halls in our schools. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity, and I pray before we break on 2nd of December that we are sitting down to make sure that this CDF, we were given 3 months. 3 months can also be 2 weeks. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity.
Rebo Ukume Adepo, on account of disability, MP for Karachuonyo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, I must say that sometimes the debate going on in this country is confusing people. You hear all the time people talking of CDF being outlawed by the court. That is true, and nobody is contesting that. But then people don't differentiate between CDF and NGCDF. Even in this honorable house, when I was listening to the debate, a number of times people referred to CDF, which is non-existent. But I know in the house we are just shortening the NGCDF to replace it with CDF for the sake of time. But otherwise, when we talk of NGCDF, there is no problem with CDF. No court has ever given any judgment against NGCDF. Judgment was against CDF. I think this needs to be made clear. It is made worse by the Treasury, which made a statement that they were referring the case to the AG as to whether they should release the funds or not. There is no issue to refer to AG. I think this needs to be very clear. And that being the case, that there is no issue to refer to AG. And again, there is no issue whatsoever, legal or otherwise, against the release of NGCDF. Treasury should take their responsibility and make immediate payment, because our children are suffering. The Kenyan children are not going to school. Mr. Speaker, let me just remind you of what you know, that we have gone through a hard time when COVID-19 attacked the nation and the schools were all closed. They came back 2021 and they progressed with their education up to sometime this year. But then from August, when they started the term, which I think is the last one for the year, they were again not able to get any money to pay fees. The mothers, the fathers are crying. I wish any of these people delaying the payment could know how much tears women shed and their husbands as well. In fact, it's pathetic. Every day, and I'm sure all the MPs here go through the same process, every day you get not requests, but you get cry. People are crying that their children are staying with them. If you see somebody crying for the future of his or her child, know that that person is in a problem. Yes, we are soon going for recess. I don't know how we are going to find ourselves in an area where everybody comes to you crying. Some of them bring 2, 3 children, telling you that these children did not go to school. Are they going to remain home again when the year starts?
Order, Honorable Andrew Adipo. I'm told that the time has come for the mover to reply under the standing orders, regrettably. Mover.
I oblige, Bwana Speaker.
Yeah, thank you. Mover. Mover.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to reply, but before I reply, I would like to give 2 minutes of my time to Cynthia Muge, Women Rep for Nandi, Betty Maina, of Moranga, 2 minutes. Omar Mwinyi. Yeah, 2 minutes. Ivo Bara, 2 minutes. And Ferdinand Wanyonyi. Two minutes. Okay, so yes, turn down. So start.
So Honorable Cynthia Muge.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and Honorable Sirma, for the opportunity to make a comment in regards to the ad hoc committee that has been proposed to be formed for purposes of looking into the CDF, the GAF, and the other empowerment funds. Honorable Speaker, I stand in support of the said ad hoc committee. It should have happened earlier, Honorable Speaker. Like honorable members have spoken to the issue, we are in pains to explain why there's no GAF in circulation to pay school fees for children, school-going children. We are at pains to explain why CDF is not yet here for it to pay school fees for children. Honorable Speaker, I was moved when I went to pass my condolences in a village called Cheptarit in my home, Honorable Speaker, and I found a member who used to serve in CDF, and the member by the name Reverend Tello said that this woman has 6 kids in school, and all these kids, 3 of them were under full scholarship of CDF, but they were all at home, Honorable Speaker, because the CDF money has not been released, and therefore the schools could not admit written commitments to the same, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, I just want to say that for anyone out there who thinks that CDF and GAF and the empowerment funds, Honorable Speaker, are not important, I want to tell them that they are as important as the breath that everyone takes, Honorable Speaker. They are important for those children and those people who depend on it to be able to school and to be able to have good facilities. So, Honorable Speaker, I support this motion and I urge the honorable members to support it. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Betty Maina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me a chance to contribute to this motion. I want to stand and make a very deliberate comment that most of the members of parliament in this house are parents who are capable of paying their children's school fees without struggle. Their salary can support, and their ventures are not one bottom trusted. When we talk about CDF and GAF, we are here as ambassadors of the most vulnerable people in our societies. Children who depend on us and children who look upon us. Mr. Speaker, in the month of October, I have been able to donate part of my salary to parents in dire need of school fees because children are just about to do exams and they do not have money. Mr. Speaker, may I wish to say that when we talk about GAF and women empowerment, we are not empowering the richest women in this republic, but we are empowering the women in Mashinani who are in dire need of money to even start to get capital for even the smallest business. Mr. Speaker, when we talk about administration blocks, we are talking about blocks that are archaic, old, and we are trying to bring up new facilities for our people who elected us. I wish to say, Mr. Speaker, we are the voice to the voiceless. We are the people supporting the most vulnerable, and we are the bridge between the government facilities and our voters. I wish to support this, and I want to tell the people who are opposing this, they should be more philanthropic, visit their villages, and know how people suffer to access these facilities. Thank you.
Honorable Omar Mwinyi, also known as Simba Tena.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I want this House to know that we are not debating about CDF on our own behalf. We are actually representing the voices of our people in the constituency. They are the ones who are yearning for CDF, not the MPs. Mr. Speaker, if people want to believe that CDF is the only thing that makes members of parliament to be re-elected, it is also, the statistics are there, that almost 70% of members of parliament normally get voted out, despite the fact that CDF is there. So that should not actually be a matter to be considered. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, CDF has taught people about public participation, real public participation. It has also ensured equitable distribution of resources in this country. If other countries in Africa, like Zambia, sometimes in 2015, they came here to benchmark after we introduced this idea to them. Tanzania as well. So I think if an idea is good, then it should actually be allowed to proceed. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I was looking forward to have inter-county sports, because sports in our country is actually dying out because of the FKF politics. But I'm sure if CDF is given more funds, we can have inter-county games, and perhaps this would actually ensure that our youth will be encouraged to participate in sports and perhaps become stars in the making. Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me that opportunity.
The Honorable Dr. Ivo Bara.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and may I too add my voice to support the establishment of the ad hoc committee to go across the country and collect views from the people of Kenya on CDF and eventually entrenching it in the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the benefits of CDF cannot be understated. What we have had here today are success stories of what CDF has done in the different areas of this country, ranging from nurseries, infrastructure development, such as laboratories, classrooms, name it. It is all about CDF. We have people in this room, MPs in this room, who have benefited from CDF, and they have given testimonies that they would not have gone to school had it not been for CDF. Thank you very much. I support once again, and thank you very much, Chairman, for giving me your 2 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, lastly, Honorable Abraham Kirwa for 2 minutes.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity that you've given me to just contribute also to this ad hoc committee that is actually going to be going around the country to get views. I am in support, Mr. Speaker, for 2 reasons. One, actually CDF or NGCDF makes a difference in the lives of many, many Kenyans, especially in my constituency. I can tell you almost a half of the students who go to school depend on the bursaries from NGCDF. So by not allowing NGCDF to continue, that means most of the families will not afford to send students to school. So I'm asking those people who are behind these court cases, withdraw these court cases for the sake of this country. It is not helping anybody. It is not for the best interest of the country. Let's withdraw those cases, release the funds for the CDF so that we can continue to meet the needs of most of our Kenyans because they depend on this NGCDF. So yes, I support this motion.
Move as you respond to the question I'd asked.
Mr. Speaker, I take this opportunity to give a reply on this motion. Mr. Speaker, it has been deliberated on and really debated by members who are really active, and the interest of CDF in this country can never be overemphasized. It is the mainstay of every constituency, because without CDF, there would be no development. In fact, CDF is the equalizer of all developments in this country, because whether you are in government or not, you are going to get funding. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, activists in this country have gone beyond and gone overboard. Some of them are trying to play the role Okia Omtata was doing and thinking that they will be senators like Okia. So I think it is time that they know that it is not activism which will develop this country. We need patriots in this country so that we can have a good country in terms of development. Mr. Speaker, as we go as I am one of the members who are served in this house without CDF in the 1997-2002 term, Mr. Speaker, we sold our properties, we gave everything we had so that our people could give us another chance to run, because we were paying or doing harambes for schools, funerals, and even bursaries to all schools. So I can assure you, this has brought, and it is a real change in terms of development in this country. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the development of CBC, as has been mentioned by many, nobody even talks about the wrong or the bad structures which has been put up by the Ministry of Education. Nobody even thinks or have a second opinion on it. They will just say, Serikali, the government has done it. And I want to say that we are being looked at so seriously, and we deliver, because it is good. It is good for you as a member to do it. Mr. Speaker, as you asked why the CDF has not been dispersed, Mr. Speaker, I want to say, I want to give notice and summon the CS of Treasury and the Attorney General next week to this chamber, so that every member can ventilate on issues touching on CDF, and then they should tell us what legal minds do they have which is different from Kenyans. The Supreme Court have gone ahead to do the wrong thing. And I think it is time also we need to punish them, Mr. Speaker, by actually denying them funding. Because why do they think that they are the only people who are supposed to get funding? Mr. Speaker, I think we need an all bipartisan approach in all matters in this country. Mr. Speaker, I beg to support and move and reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Musa Sirma. I know how passionate you are. Several members are disappointed they did not have a chance to speak on this matter. But as the motion states, this matter is going to involve a lot of public participation, which will require even your views. I regret and unregister my apologies for the members who never got the chance, and I thank you for your patience. Because the House is not queried, the question on the motion will be put the next time. It will be scheduled by the House Business Committee, and the House will be sitting. Order, members. Honorable members, and the time being 5 minutes past 7 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Thursday, the 24th day of November 2022 at 2:30 p.m.
To a broadcast made possible